Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Red Eyes Live. My name is Henrik. Thank you so much for tuning in today to this impromptu live broadcast of the Italy's referendum about, which way are they going to go? Yes or no? That's the question. This is actually quite somewhat of a complicated issue when it comes to all the components of the referendum. Some people even thought, and I thought myself in the beginning, that it's about them, still being part of the Eurozone or not, which is not the case. This is basically a referendum whether or not, Renzi is going to be able to reform the Italian government, and whether or not, it's going to be basically easier for him to do what he wants to with the country. Part of that, which was going to break down a bit today, is, I guess, understandable, because in the last 70 years, Italy's had about 65 governments, which is a lot, obviously. So there is a complication, there is maybe a desire for renewal, which is understandable. But as usual, the question is how the powers that be are going to use this to make things sucky again in Italy. And of course, we want to make Italy great again. That's the very issue and the very point. So anyway, we have a couple of things we want to go through before we introduce some of our guests. Just some basic details, but I guess we can say hello to our co-host, to Lana, who's with us.
Looking forward to learning about Italy tonight.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot to learn about. We're going to go through some of this. We have a couple of clips we can show you guys and kind of break down the situation for you. But kind of in a nutshell, it's basically, if there is a no vote here and Renzi resigns, there's a re-election, and at that point you might have something like the Five-Star Movement come into play, which want to at least initially exit out of the euro, which is, of course, different from the European Union. That's just the monetary branch of it, if you will. But this could basically be a domino effect, much in the same way that we saw Brexit. So if we get a no vote today, that is encouraging for those who are Eurosceptics and want to make sure that each individual sovereign nation can get back on their own feet again and not be dominated by these Eurocrats. So it is an important vote. It's an important referendum, and we'll try to kind of break that down a bit more for you here today. But one of the things, of course, we wanted to just alert you to is the fact that you can tweet to us in the studio if you want. We're going to have a little bit of our social plugin running. So if you do a hashtag Red Eyes Live to us here in the studio, we can include that in the live stream. That's always fun. So do make sure you do that. Red Eyes Live, that's the hashtag. And we'll see it on this end, and we can add it on the screen if you will. All right, what else should we go through here before we continue and bring in some of our guests? I think that's it. I mean, we're going to break this down for you, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure that you have a little bit of a better understanding of what this is about and so forth. But let me actually for a moment switch over, because I do want to just introduce some of our guests. We'll see if we have some other guys joining us, throughout the evening as well. But let me just go over here. Let me enable their mics too, so we can hear the gentleman here. We have with us Frank from the U.S. branch of Forza Nova with us. Hey, Frank, thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you for having me on, Henrik.
Excellent.
Pleasure being here.
Thanks so much. We also have Carlos from the same branch, Forza Nova. Hi, Carlos.
Thank you for having me on the show.
There we go. Thanks so much. And also joining us, we have Stefan Jakobsson from the APF, the Alliance for Peace and Freedom. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you, Henrik. It's nice to be on the show again.
You bet. Exactly. Excellent. And I think we have Georgios from Golden Dawn checking in as well. Are you there, Georgios?
I'm right here.
There we go. Good to have you with us. Thanks for coming on. And I know you're kind of busy, but you're going to join in throughout the evening, back and forth a little bit. So it's good to have you here.
Yeah, I'll be in and out. It's nice being on Red Ice again. I know we talked about Greece in the past, and this is going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with the Italian referendum, because this could be the beginning of the end.
Absolutely.
For real this time, hopefully. So.
Exactly. That's going to be really good to see how this pans out. And unfortunately, guys, I'm sure you know before we kind of go over to Italy, but unfortunately we had a win of the watermelons in Austria. They're green on the outside and red on the inside, as we say. The Enviro commies, right? So unfortunately, our guy there didn't make it Hofer in Austria. It's too bad. I thought there would be a momentum here of sorts, and from Brexit to Trump to other things. I was hoping that Austria would come through and actually manage to do it, but yeah, I guess not. It's unfortunate. Did any of you guys watch the elections closely in Austria today?
No, just very briefly. But I think, okay, with the referendum today in Italy, we can still keep the momentum. Still, we need to remember that the presidency in Austria is not like the presidency in United States. It's more of a ceremonial position. You don't have any direct political influence in the same way.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because there's so many different systems, throughout the different European countries, and as you said, Italy has this issue of like having tons of different governments. In some cases, they're just in there for like 1 year or something like that, which is quite rare, I guess, and that's why they have this desire for trying to reform the system. As usual, these globalists come along, they want to try to use these opportunities to reform and improve or whatever. But we have to keep an eye on this because this could develop into something, I guess, really, really bad for for Italy if Renzi is still in there. For those who don't know, guys, what kind of politician is Renzi? What side is he on? What kind of line has he been pushing in Italy?
Who wants to take that? Carlos or me? Okay, I'll take it.
You can go ahead, Frank.
Well, he's what's
this.
called a center-left politician. His party is the Partito Democratico, the Democratic Party, but it's just a very socialist system that he's a part of. So he's definitely a left-wing politician. So that's what you pretty much have in Italy. That's being put to the people right now, with them being the majority party.
Yeah,
something I want to add on that is very important for people to know is that the Partito Democratico in Italy, the Democratic Party, is a direct communist party. So their roots are very left wing. If you go and do some research, you'll see.
Yeah. In the 90s, when the Christian Democrats and the communist parties went by the wayside because of corruption, these were the parties that came out of it, and the Partito Democratico was one of them. So they kind of became the Communist Party, and you have Forza Italia now around. These were not parties that were in Italy in the 1980s, or they were formed in the 1990s from the collapse of the Christian Democrats and the Communist Party. So exactly what Carlos said. They're just a direct descendant of the Communist Party.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that. What is the situation? I mean, one of the things that Italy's been struggling with is the economy. And as usual, as we heard after Brexit, they were fear-mongering and said, oh my God, the pound's going to collapse. And same after Trump, actually, they said the dollar's going to collapse and everything. And actually the reverse, actually happened. There was actually faith brought back into the system in one way or another. Do you guys know anything about the economic situation, and if there is a that comes in? They've fear-mongered here, and they've said we don't know what would happen with the banking system. They might collapse, etc. But
I'm sure a lot of it is. Yeah, exactly. It's how much of it is fear-mongering. If he gets in, if it's a no and the government collapses, the banks will collapse with it. They're talking that the 8 largest banks in Italy will collapse. Is that really going to happen? If something were to happen with the banks, it has nothing to do with this referendum. I can tell you that. I mean, regardless of what number crunching they want to, put out to the people about how it would collapse due to the vote. I don't believe that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens going forward.
I don't think it's just about the referendum. I think it's about Renzi, because I think Renzi have made some promises to some of the banks, because the banks in Italy are in big problems. And I think he have made some promises to them. And if he now will resign, then they are afraid that this will not happen. And this could start to collapse. And also, we need to remember that Italy is the 3rd largest
economy
area for economy in the Eurozone. So of course, this is a big thing for this is a big thing for the Eurozone. What's happening in Italy, of course.
Yeah, Italy's 3rd behind Germany and France right now.
That's interesting. I always thought that they were doing not so well economically. How many people are there? I got to check this up as we speak here. But
In Italy?
Yeah, roughly.
There's 60 million people in Italy, but 55 million that are Italian. There's 5 million immigrants.
All right. Yeah, it's a big population. That's definitely understandable then. Well, guys, let's break down a bit here of what you guys see in terms of. Actually, let me do this first. Let me run a clip. There's a couple of mainstream sources here that we can just go to briefly to get a little bit of an explanation of what the referendum is about, and then we can come back and we can break this down a bit. We can comment a bit more on this, and also, of course, I just want to mention before we do that, one of the reasons why we put it at this time is because we have a closing of the polls here, basically at the top of the hour, and that's when votes are going to start coming in. So we're going to keep an eye on that for you. But if you have a little bit of an issue of kind of understanding what the referendum is about, let's just take a look at these couple of videos. That's going to break things down a little bit more for you, and then we can come back and kind of, I guess, discuss what some of these mainstream sources are not talking about. So we'll take a look at that now.
Viva il Partito Democratico! Viva l'Italia! Viva l'Italia che dice sì e che non si rassegna alla paura!
We think that the no we are going to say is at the same time a radical change in our lives and a radical democratization of our lives.
Why don't you say it with me? We want our country back.
Stiamo girando, vi spostate! Vi spostate! Non è crisi, è un cambiamento di mondo, lo volete capire? Che ci siamo in mezzo e stiamo iniziando a cambiarlo! Italiani!
The anti-establishment, Eurosceptical or anti-European forces will certainly be the major beneficiaries of a no victory.
The country is currently facing a potentially massive crisis, and I think should things develop in the next few weeks, then I think we could be looking at something far worse than Brexit for the EU right now.
The Italian referendum on Sunday could be bigger than Brexit, but no one is really talking about it. Here's why they should be. On Sunday, Italians vote on constitutional reform. That may sound super technical, and well, it is, to the point where some Italians are reportedly paying more than $150 an hour on lessons to learn what they're voting on. The Prime Minister has basically bet his political career on a vote to make it much, much simpler to pass new legislation. He wants to gut the powers of one of Parliament's two chambers, give the biggest party the majority, and upend the process of directly electing legislators. The No camp argues this would be a throwback to Italy's fascist roots and leave the country at the mercy of a prime minister with absolute power. But here's the thing. The referendum also has a sort of unspoken underbelly. It's less about the Constitution and now much more about voting on the 2.5-year tenure of the current Prime Minister. If the vote fails and Matteo Renzi owns up to his promise to step down, it could pave the way for Italy's very own brand of Donald Trump. Comedian cum politician Beppe Grillo is the big name in the No camp. He's an anti-establishment proponent who heads up the Five Star Movement, a populist Eurosceptic coalition that's openly said it wants a referendum on getting Italy off the euro. Some say it's also keen to break ties with the Eurobloc entirely. So even though the vote may be about domestic politics, voting for no change could end up leading to big change, affecting the euro and the European Union. That means that come Monday morning, Europe could be staring down another fallen domino.
All right, so we have a little bit of something to kind of discuss there, because it's an interesting angle that you mentioned, that somehow there's almost some guilt that this harkens back to some fascist time in Italy, so therefore it has to be kind of reformed, right? But in this case, we have someone like Renzi in there trying to reform it for his benefit. There is an angle here, right? It kind of in the same way that Obama imposed things such as executive orders, for example, in the United States, right? It gave him a lot of power of doing certain things politically. But now that baton has been handed over to Trump, which is, it turns out it's a good thing, right? He can actually use that to his advantage now. So is there any similarity here in terms of what we're seeing in Italy, that if, let's assume that it's a yes vote, Renzi reforms the government, makes it much more easier for him to control Italy and do what he wants with it, but then he loses the next election and someone like either Pepe Grillo or someone maybe even more radical comes in next. That would open up the whole thing in a kind of in a different way. So that was my kind of only caveat to why a yes would be good. But explain, guys, why a no is essential to you here, if you are on that page, of why Italy shouldn't reform its constitution. Frank, what do you say?
Well, why would the people ever give up their right to vote? That's pretty much what you're doing with the Senate. What they want to do is to do away with voting directly for senators, not only just chopping down the number from 315 to 100, but they want, you will not be voting for them. They will be getting picked by the parties. So, it's just not democracy, if you want to say it. It's you're taking that right away, and that's what's got people up in arms. That it's there's two houses, so of course, obviously, everything will go through the lower house and go right through, but you're not having any checks and balances. So that's, I mean, yeah, you can say, well, he would lose, we'll throw him out, and then someone that we like gets in, and it would give him all that power. But is it the correct thing to do?
Right.
And the answer is no.
Yes.
Are executive orders in America correct? Yeah, I mean, now we can say, oh, well, Donald Trump can do it, but does that make it right?
Right.
No.
But it's not...
that's my take on it.
Right. And she said in the report there that it's like somehow, oh my God, this is reminiscent of fascist Italy. Is there any truth to that?
No, of course not. He's in power now. He wants more power, and he's going to get a lot of things passed through this way. Italy will be totally changed in the next 2 years, 3 years with him being able to do this. So, we have to stop that.
Yeah, of course. What do you other guys say about this, and why a no is essential here, and what that could lead to? Let's talk about that a bit. I mean, it's like, there's a potentiality then that either Pepe Grillo gets in, he's Eurosceptic. I actually don't know really where he is, so if he's center or left or right or anything like that, you guys can explain that if you know. But it seems to me that there's a number of things that could occur if there's a no vote, which could have this domino effect on the rest of the Eurozone, and of course that would be a good thing, right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for Europeans, the most important thing now is that we keep the momentum, that we continue to win against the establishment. I think the important thing is to see here that the establishment is for this referendum and the people is against it. And every time we win against the establishment, our confidence are boosted all the time, and then we get more and more. We want to win more and more each time we have a win. And for our movement or for the people of Europe, we need this win. We have been losing now for 70 years. Mm-hmm. We need to start winning again. Yeah. And this year we have really started to win. We have had the Brexit, we have Donald Trump. Now hopefully we'll have this referendum. and so on and so on. So I think it's very important from that perspective.
Another important thing I wanted to bring up, just touching on what you had asked about why the no is imperative. If the yes goes through, a lot more Italian power, as we know, will be concentrated at the parliamentary level. And for parties like us, like Forza Nuova, so much of our movement is concentrated at the moment at the regional level. We do very well in the smaller towns, and at the regional level, we this year we elected quite a bit of people at the local level. So a yes vote could potentially hurt us quite a bit.
Yeah, it seems that the telltale sign is, what do the globalists want? And that we don't want that. That seems to be as easy as it is.
Yeah, it's building up the central government, right? And that's what we don't want. We don't want the central government to become stronger. We're trying to, strip away its power. But they, like Carlos said, you'd be taking away power from the regional governments or them having says in anything and putting it right to Parliament. Parliament will pretty much be dictating every law. The Senate won't be able to stop it, and the regional governments won't be able to stop it. So anything that Renzi wants or Prime Minister wants will go right through. And for people to understand in other countries, the way it works in Italy is the winning party gets a 54% majority in the lower house. So it's not like in America where you can have, Donald Trump could be president, but theoretically, it didn't happen this time, but theoretically he could have had a Democratic Senate and a Democratic Congress to deal with. He happens not to have that. Well, in the Italian system, that would never happen because the party who wins, they get the prime minister and they're going to get the parliament with the lower house of the parliament with a weakened Senate. So in other words, it's here you go. It's a blank check. Just write it out and everything is going to pass through. There won't be any checks and balances whatsoever. And that's the issue at hand. That's what has the people upset.
Yeah, I think I wonder if the results are accurate that we're seeing on the screen now. If there's already counts coming in, or if this is projection. This is exit polls, I guess. But 42.
Yeah, this is the exit polls.
46, and then no at 54 to 58%. So it seems that it's been leaning no though, which is a good thing.
And they also said it's higher turnout in the polls in the northern region versus the southern. So what's the demographic difference in the north versus the south of Italy?
That's an interesting
question. Well, I'm actually surprised. Yeah, I'm actually surprised because they said there's a large turnout. And when I saw that there was a large turnout in Milan and in the Lombardy region, and they said the south was down, I was like, uh-oh, that's not good news for us. Because part of Renzi's plan, or the yes vote, would love that the South feels apathy and doesn't come out to vote, because they would vote no. So they would love for the South not to come out. But I heard there was a high voter turnout in Sicily, so that could be some of that. So, but usually when the polls close, they do an exit poll, which that's what this is. And then in every half hour, every 30 minutes, we're going to get an update on actual counts. That's the way it will come down.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that here as we go and see what comes out of it. We'll talk, of course, a bit about Forza Nuova in a little bit, ask what that is. There's a U.S. branch. There's one in Italy, obviously. We'll talk a bit about with Georgios from Golden Dawn later, and we'll talk more about the Alliance for Peace and Freedom with Stefan later, so we give you guys some room for that. But if we just kind of continue talking a bit about the situation a little bit as is now, what do you guys know about Pepe Grillo and the 5-star movement, right? He's obviously on the forefront of being one of the Eurosceptic people, which I guess is something that many of the more nationalist-prone Italians can use to their advantage. But who do you guys know anything more about him and where he stands on certain issues?
Carlo, do you know?
I know that I was going to say, I know that he's a comedian and an actor. Which is kind of funny because I mean, you saw in his speech earlier how passionate he seemed, but what I fear about him is that he's just like any other populist. I mean, he's really just, he doesn't have a strict.
I remember when he first came out, he was taken as a joke. People weren't taking him seriously, but it built from there because of people are fed up and they actually. But I mean, my fear is that it's not really. He has no real plan, no real structure and I could be wrong to his movement, besides it just being anti-establishment. It's one thing to be anti-establishment and let's get rid of okay, well, what's your program? And if he doesn't have one, I think you're seeing that with Virginia and Rome. She got swept into office as the mayor, and I think she's finding that dealing with in Rome, things aren't that easy. She came in and she said, I'm going to clean it up and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And she's now hitting the wall on a lot of things. So it's easier said than done, right? And I think that's with Pepe Grillo here. I'm not sure how successful he'll be besides just being an anti-establishment voice.
I mean, they didn't take Trump seriously initially, and then some comparisons came in, but it seems that he's not kind of the same quality.
But Donald Trump, okay, people took him as a joke, but let's not forget that Donald Trump took $1 million and built it up to $11 billion. Let's not forget that he builds things and has been very, very successful. He wasn't just telling jokes and a comedian. People wanted you to think of Donald Trump and just think of his reality show. Who's the whatever it was.
But this must be a metaphysical message. Pepe, right? Pepe Grillo. Come on,
Pepe Grillo. There you go. You didn't think of that one.
Yeah. It's got to be something to it, guys.
No, Trump has a lot behind him. Grillo doesn't have, obviously.
Right. Stefan.
Right, and one of the.
No, go ahead, Carlos.
One of the things is anti-establishment. Like Frank was saying, it doesn't mean anything. We already have quote unquote Eurosceptic anti-establishment people in Europe, and they haven't left the EU or the Euro. You hear about these people like Viktor Orban, who apparently is anti-establishment, but pro-EU. So we really need someone who's just anti-EU, period.
Yeah, exactly. Can't screw around with this anymore. Stefan, tell us a bit about the situation in the EU right now. Of course, you're very involved with the Alliance for Peace and Freedom. You're the secretary for that. Is that correct?
Yeah, Secretary General.
Secretary General. That's right. Exactly. What's the sense of things that you have? I don't recall how many years you've been involved with that now, since unfortunately the party of the Swedes were disbanded. But has things changed after Brexit? What's the climate like right now?
I would say that the establishment within the European Union, they are afraid now. And you could really feel that they are losing the control that they had in the past. Just now, look at Austria again, for example. If you go back 15 years ago, I think it was when Jörg Haider was in the government, then the total EU was about to make sanctions against Austria together with Israel. Now, when parties like FPÖ or other populistic parties in Europe are getting very good results, you don't hear anything about making sanctions or anything like this, because they have lost their influence in this way. They cannot come with this kind of threats anymore because no one will take them seriously. So you could really see that the EU establishment is getting weaker and weaker by the year. And I think this will continue, and they are really afraid now of what will happen, how the Brits will continue to to push with Brexit. Now when we see in France for next year with Marine Le Pen, if she will become president, etc., etc. So I think the EU will not continue as it has done before. You know, their time is already over. They just haven't realized it yet, and they don't know how to solve the situation. I'm sure of this.
Yeah.
So,
Henrik, just to
Yeah.
throw in, Reuters is predicting that no will win by a clear margin.
right. Okay. Excellent. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it here. It seems
keep an eye
definitely
on
that
it, though. It's
this
not-
is the trend. Yeah, for sure. So regarding the EU, Stefan, because you're obviously also working kind of within that environment to try to also get cooperation between European nations, which is a very positive aspect of what you can do within the European Union. I mean, I know it's, some people say, well, it's a system that's ultimately anti the European nations ultimately. So it's like you can't really, to reform it would be very difficult, to try to turn it into our favor. But have you noticed, regarding the fact that you can actually operate within the European Union environment, that there's any advantage to those who are more nationalistic within the European countries?
Okay, if I had to choose, of course, I don't think this is a positive, but I think we need to work on all areas where we have the possibility to work. And now we have this opportunity to build this European political parties that APF is. And I think this has been very important because, as you all know, our political opponents have been working on a global scale for years. But it has been a problem with different nationalistic forces that we only focus on our own country. Okay, this maybe it's natural. You feel closest to your homeland, but the problems we are facing now is global. So, like our opponents, we also need to work on a global scale, and this is something that we have forgotten. And I think only now in recent year we have started to realize that we have to do this in an efficient way. And with the Alliance for Peace and Freedom, I think we really can do this on a more professional way than has been done in the past.
Yeah, you guys had a conference in Rome just, I think it was in November, that was very successful. We can actually check one of the little mini documentaries that you guys produced from that. But what did you get from the conference, Stefan? What did you some of the ideas that you came out with there? A lot of people meeting, as you said, it was kind of cross national boundaries. People are starting to talk with each other, different nationalist forces. It seems to be a positive, overall positive momentum right now, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Both for, of course, the APF, but I think for European people in general, we have a momentum now that people are more and more realizing that the establishment is a threat to our survival, and more people are waking up and try to fight this. And of course, the meeting we had in Rome or the conference, it was very important for us because, as you said before, we are a new party. The Alliance for Peace and Freedom has only existed for about 2 years, so it was important to us to do something big to show the world, the Europe, that we are a force to be reckoned with. And we had a little more than 400 participants, and we had speakers from 7 different countries. And yeah, I think we had a great atmosphere, and we talked about really important subject like the demographic crisis in Europe, how to solve this, and also try to see that we have to use new methods, new ways of thinking of things. I think a big problem has been that we have always just focused on okay, it must be done like this and this, but the world has changed. We need to adapt to new strategies. We need to adapt to new ways of thinking. And sorry to say, the nationalistic movement has sometimes been quite slow in this. But now I really feel that people are starting to change. We are starting to the situation we are in, and to see how we really can face the problems ahead of us.
Yeah, exactly. Lana, you had a
So let's
point?
say no wins. What does that mean for nationalism, and what does it mean for immigration?
Can you please repeat that, Lana? I didn't hear.
Sure. Yeah, for any of you guys, really talking about Italy. If no wins, what does that mean for nationalism in Italy, and what does it mean for immigration? Will it have any effect on immigration?
Well, no is, again, as I think Stefan was saying before, it's just another, we're on a roll and let's keep the momentum going. We're saying no. This referendum has also been a referendum on Renzi, right? It's not just about the changing of powers in the Senate, but he made it personal when he said, if it's no, I'm going to resign. So it became a referendum on Renzi and obviously what he's been doing and what has been happening in Italy, which shows you that the Italians are starting to get fed up with the unemployment and the immigration crisis. So, in that respect, will it change anything tomorrow? No. They're going to, number one, the Partito Democratico may very well keep power if Renzi steps down. We don't know what new government will be formed, but it's a step in the right direction for hopefully in the near future, that the Italians are waking up and have had enough of these leftist forms of government with their lax immigration policy. So it'll be a wait and see, but it's part of like the domino effect, right? When now Italy is in, it's Italy's turn, and it's just one step closer, one more nail in the coffin. But it can also lead to getting out of the Euro step. And hopefully the European, I don't know if we'll get out of the European Union altogether, but it'll be a step in the right direction toward, and like I said, another nail in the coffin for it.
I don't know what it will take for these people to wake up. I mean, Italy has been struggling tremendously with the wave of migrants coming into the various, seaports in Italy, all around. It's been a, highway basically from over the Mediterranean into Italy, through Italy, and then of course further,
absolutely,
much up to
absolutely.
Germany and Sweden.
Well, I will tell you that I was just in Italy 3 weeks ago because I attended the conference. They do a beautiful job of let's say hiding them or where they're placing them. It's not like you go into Rome, and I was expecting to see refugees everywhere. I didn't really see that. They keep them on the outskirts. So yes, where they're immigrants, yes, but you didn't see the refugees. So these are things that to somebody coming into the cities, you don't see them. They're being put into the towns and they're splitting them up. Remember, it's only right now in Italy. There's about 176,000, I think, refugees in Italy. So they have them split up. Unfortunately, what will it take for them to wake up? What does it take anyone to wake up? It has to get worse before it gets better.
Right.
And I think that's the only, and we don't want it to come to that, but that's what happens. People don't care until it affects them. The person whose son gets robbed or daughter gets attacked, I can guarantee becomes very anti-immigrant, becomes very anti-refugee. But until that happens, he's got apathy, and
Frank, I wanted to just add something to that.
Sure.
The thing is that, in the northern European countries, you have what they call the social safety net.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lot of, good welfare programs. If they're unemployed, feel comfortable. And in the south of Europe, you don't have that safety net, but what you have is what they call in Italy, la dolce vita, or what we call in Greece, halara.
Mm.
And so even though you don't have so much money, even though you don't have the social safety net, these Southern Europeans tend to have the family structure, which kind of comforts them. It makes them
Yeah.
feel at ease.
No,
So
there's
until
apathy.
they see the knife to their throat, they won't really react unless it happens to enough of them. And right now,
Mhm.
it's just
It's not
happening to someone else. You know, oh, you hear about it in the paper.
Yeah.
Oh, it happened to this
Exactly.
guy, but it's not happening to my family. It's not happening to my cousin or my daughter. And until that happens, unfortunately, they're going to stay in that little
Exactly.
La Dolce Vita type of bubble.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. The life in Italy is much different than what we have, let's say, in America. Someone can make €1,000 in Italy and live okay. You know, there's a statistic: 18 to 34-year-olds, 2/3 of them are living at home.
Wow.
You know, 2/3. Because they don't make enough money to go out and go on their own. But you know what? They almost have a type of a system where they don't mind that. They, like Giorgio was saying, La Dolce Vita, right? They have enough money for cigarettes and a cup of coffee at the cafe and to hang out with their friends. And, you know, life's not that bad. You know, and
So it's got to
that's
get
what
worse, right? It's and it's
Yeah,
unfortunate because
it's got to get worse.
worse means
Unfortunately, yeah, it has to be worse. You know, why is Golden Dawn big in Greece and Forza Nova? Forza Nova is where Golden Dawn was 20 years ago.
right.
Well, because we haven't collapsed. We haven't collapsed to the amount that Greece has. We haven't suffered economically like they have. I can guarantee you that if there was a total collapse of Italy economically, you would have people. Okay, who do we turn to next? Who can bring back order? And we're confident that it could be us. But that's what it would take, unfortunately, for them to realize that they don't see it ahead of, you know, ahead of that. They
Gotta
don't see
cut off the caffeine and nicotine supply, and then it'll be all hell, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
they're notorious procrastinators. You know what I mean? They're very famous for procrastination and no, tomorrow. You know, today's a nice day. There's pretty girls out. I got the espresso. I got the
Mañana.
No problem.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I hate to say it, and even me and Giorgio speak about this. We tend to, even when we deal with the Europeans for our matters, you know, at times we would get frustrated, like, oh, you know, they haven't called me back and this and that. And then we realize, hey, that's the way it is there. You know, to them, urgency means, well, we'll take care of it next week. It doesn't mean what in America, when we say this is urgent, it means today, or actually that they wanted it done yesterday. To the Italian, it means, well, okay, I'll take care of it. You know, they put it on the list to do. You know, that's what it means. It's a different life, and it's you know what, in some ways a better life, an easier life, but it's different, and it's unfortunately, I think they need to. They need to, you know, for things to change for the better, they need to suffer a little bit.
Well, they must get fired up in some ways. I mean, 65 different governments since Mussolini. I mean, how is that even possible?
Yeah, it's messy.
Well,
it's messy.
Listen, that's just like, and to talk about this referendum per se, they probably do need to do something to correct this. I don't, maybe I should explain how this happens. Why is there 65 governments? How does it happen that there's 65 governments in Italy? And it's because of the Senate. Because what happens is the Senate is voted on. It's not like the parliament where the winning party automatically gets 54% of the parliament vote. So when it comes to the Senate, a coalition can be formed to form a government, but it doesn't mean that you're a clear-cut, you know, powerful coalition. You could be just tinkering by 3 votes and be in control of the country. So now when you have one of these smaller parties who gets, you know, gives you a vote of no confidence and breaks up the coalition, that's how the government falls. Now they have to go and make another government. That's why they have so many governments. They need another system. They need another system in place where, you know, maybe these coalitions can't break up, Maybe they have to have their hands tied. Like if they do make a coalition, maybe they need to, they have no choice. They have to keep that coalition intact for a certain number of years. I don't know. That's for better minds maybe in Italy to decide how they would like to do it. But they do need to do something because, 65 governments in 70 years, they're a laughing stock. They're a joke, right? They get they're the butt of jokes. They change governments faster than people change what? Winter coat. Someone
Right.
60, 70 years probably doesn't have 65 winter coats.
So what does your average Italian think about Mussolini? What kind of propaganda are Italians being pushed with about Mussolini?
You'd be surprised, actually.
You'll be surprised. Yeah. Go ahead, Carlo.
Yeah, I was going to say you'd be surprised. There's actually a lot more people who support him than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking to Frank. It's one of the weird things about Italy is that people they're just not voting they're not voting the right way, even though they might share these views that we have. The important thing is to get them to vote for the right people. But
we can say that in America also, though, and
right.
I know plenty of people who I will ask questions, and they're a Republican every in and out, but yet who are you voting for? Hillary. They don't know why they're voting for it. They just hear, it's a nice. Oh, she cares about people. I mean, I can't figure it out, but so it's no different. It's no different in Italy.
What were you going to say about that question, Frank? What's your thoughts?
I would say his popularity is more in the South than it would be in the North. I remember even as when I was a young teenager going to Italy, and the MSI was a big party in Italy in the 70s. Most of their support at that time came from the South. So you still have many of the Southern traditional type of thinking, I guess, who admired him. I would say if you ask the typical Italian, not the Marxist who happens to live, let's say, in the northern cities, but if you ask the typical Italian, he would probably say that Mussolini did a lot of good things, but he got us into the war, that the war was a mistake. That's what they would say about Mussolini.
Right. I've had that experience when I've talked to some other Italians that I've just randomly met. Mm-hmm. They're like, yeah, he did a lot of good things. I mean, can you imagine a German saying that
about Hitler? He wouldn't be able to. You can't say that Hitler did one good thing. Yeah, I mean, if you said, oh, Hitler patted a little boy on the head one time. No, he didn't. He slapped him. He couldn't have been that nice to a little boy. So but Mussolini, he's still revered by many people, I would say. There's been leftist attack against him, obviously, but in Italy, there's his tomb is visited every year. And they sell souvenirs about him and everything. So, there isn't that, how can I say it? The Germans, the Germans are forced not to recognize and admire the Nazis in any way. That didn't happen in Italy. So you do have he's still revered a little bit. He was still revered some. He did. No matter what you want to say, Mussolini brought respect to Italy. That's the way they would view it. That before Mussolini, the Italians were not respected, and he had the world respect them. Remember, he was in power, 1922, and he was out of power in 43. But until the war years, he was revered, and he was revered throughout the world. Roosevelt wrote nice things about him, Winston Churchill, many people, and his economic principles. If you notice to this day, no one says anything bad about the fascist corporatist system in any way, do they? Because they really can't attack it. It's not capitalism. It's not socialism. It's something comprised of both. It's probably the best of both worlds.
And he spearheaded that. Il Duce spearheaded that.
Yeah, he was
right?
an economic genius. Isn't that one of the things he's known for?
Yeah. Exactly, but and that's what I mean. But yet you won't hear anyone. They won't say that it's a good system because the capitalists hate it and the socialists hate it. But yet you don't hear them say anything bad about it because they can't. But they won't say anything good about it. So they just don't mention it. Let's not mention that part. All you know about Mussolini is he got Italy into the war and they hung him upside down. And that was it. That's.
Yeah, did you guys? I don't know if you kept an eye on this. We talked about this a lot. I remember the little time capsule he put under one of the obelisks in. I think it was in Rome, probably somewhere. They dug that up recently. Yeah, there was some message on there and stuff. It was kind of funny to watch that.
They can't actually access the message, but they're trying to guess what it says.
Well, yeah, and remember also there was something about it that they were so afraid of the message that they had to it had to be interpreted by these leftist scholars first before it came out to the public. Hilarious.
So what's the poll update?
Yeah, so it looks like more for no right now. Like 57 to 61. I guess they have a minimum and a maximum kind of rate on this, and the yes side is at 39 to a maximum of 43. So it's on course. It's on course. So Renzi most likely at this point then is going to be resigning. That's awesome. What happens next?
If he keeps up his word, we don't know this.
Maybe right.
Yeah, he doesn't have to resign. He said he would. Now there's talk. We'll have to see.
It's kind of like Cameron, though, right? In the UK with Brexit, right? That he gave them the vote, and then it became a leave vote, and so he dropped out. He's just like, all right, I failed, kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Renzi said he'll drop out because if he didn't win the referendum, he knew that he's not going to get anything done. And he said if he's going to stay in office and be like all the other politicians and just be there and have things, go back and forth between the two houses and not get anything accomplished, what would be the use? And he said he would step down. Now, let's see if he does. The party may tell him not to because Grillo now is calling for new elections right away if it's a no vote. And I don't know if the Democratic Party wants to right away go to an election and get, possibly thrown out of power. So you'll have to see what he does. He's going to speak, I believe. Renzi's going to talk today.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll see if we can patch
in about
in
20 minutes.
That. Yeah, we'll see if we can patch in on that.
In 20 minutes he's going to speak. Yeah. But in 20 minutes we'll have to see if they call the race or not.
Yeah, it might be a done deal at that point already. So, okay, what do you guys speculate in terms of, let's say he resigns, and then who else is going to get in? Is it likely then that Pepe Grillo is going to actually get in there? He seems to be quite popular. Any other takers on that?
Is Carlo there?
Stefan, do you know anything about that? Like who
I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's you can expect that he will take it. I think in the polls he's have quite a high number, and I think going back to this, you were talking about what would it take for the Europeans or for the Italians to wake up, but I think it has already happened. The problem is that today it's just a populist revolt. People are voting for populistic parties because they are fed up with the old establishment. They don't want this immigration, etc. The problem is that people are not fully nationalists today. They are populists. But I think that people are waking up, and I think this is a first step that we need to take in Europe. We cannot go from one point to another without going first through the populistic section. I think for us this will be the development. We will first have these populistic revolts in all over Europe. We see it now in more or less every country where there's these elections. You see the rise of populistic parties, and I think this is the first step in order to create a national revolution. So I think we are looking at from the wrong angle of what will it take for people to wake up. I think people are waking up. The problem is that they still need guidance in order to find the right path, but they are waking up.
Yeah, because I was going to make this point earlier when Frank mentioned that they just don't know, or it's one guy over here that experienced something and then another guy over there. It's not like connected. It's because we're still, despite the internet, we're still in a situation where there's an embargo on information pertaining to immigration and what this really is doing, because we have the whole media establishment is selling us this as this is a good thing. This is what we need. It's hyper driven by the globalists. It's hyper driven by these internationalists. And they're telling us that, this is the greatest thing ever. We have to morally, this is what we have to do. We have to bring all these people in. It doesn't matter if it hurts our economy and these kinds of things. I feel that that's changing right now, but it's still at a point where a lot of people still just want to do what they believe is the right thing to do. And that can be difficult to change that, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to remember that they have had a monopoly of making opinions and the media for more or less 70 years. And we need to reverse this. We cannot do this in 1 year or in a couple of months. It will take time.
That's right.
So, but we are on the right track, and I think what we are witnessing throughout Europe and also in America now is a proof of this.
Well, just to add to that, you were talking about what they're being fed. I can't tell you how many Italians I spoke to, let's say 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when the immigrants were first starting to come into Italy, who would actually tell you how it was good. It was good for Italy for them to come in. And you would say, well, why? They're like, oh, well, you don't want to do that type of work. They're doing all the work that we don't want. And I never heard of any such thing in my life that people don't want to do a certain type of a work. Today, those same Italians are dying to do any type of work. So I don't believe that. That's media fed that, Americans don't want to do that work. We would hear that also, right? Americans don't want to do that. And, you're hearing the same thing with the Italians. They were actually fed that, and many of them believe it. The Italians, they don't want to go do that work. If there's no jobs, you're going to go work. It doesn't matter what it is.
Also, who did that work, 50 years ago?
Exactly. I've seen people who were chemical engineers, in America, let's say pumping gas, driving a limo. Nothing is beneath anyone to go back to work. When things are tough, people go to work and they'll do any job. And like you said, just 40 years ago, they were doing that work. So now you're telling me they're above it. I don't buy that. That's just what they're being fed, that, we're beyond that now. So we need immigrants to do that work. And of course, the big thing is that as the population is decreasing, that they need immigrants for the pensions, and which is a fallacy. They hear that being told to them by the media, but they don't look any further than that to be told, and it's been proven economically that eventually the immigrants will cost you more money than what they're going to be putting into the system. And you're going to need more and more and more immigrants coming in to keep that up. So eventually, what will you have? You'll have half the country. And is that what you want? Do you want to lose your culture for money?
Most aren't even working. I think there was a study done a couple months ago. The top 10 German companies in Germany had only hired something like 3 refugees out of the million that came in.
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing. It's like these people are they're not skilled. They can't adapt to the system. There's nothing going on. And what about the issue of the environment and these kinds of issues too? I mean, Alexander van der Bellen, who got in now in Austria, I mean, one of his angles is the environmental angle. Where is he going to be on immigration at this point? Because obviously bringing in more people into Western countries and having them stepping up to that lifestyle of, having a car and all this stuff and all this cheap China-made shit, that's going to be, there's nothing more detrimental to the environment. But they seem to have dropped that angle completely, to be honest. Yeah,
absolutely. I think they're doing this in all areas where they see that they cannot do it. It's the same with the feminists. Why aren't the feminists against the Muslims? Because, of course, which feminist wants to wear a burqa? No one, of course. but still they don't take care of these things. And the same as you said, his environmental. He should be against immigration from an environment point of view. But you will never hear him talking about this. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, we'll see where he is on that. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Austria, and I guess again they haven't been hit hard enough to get someone like Hofer in there, unfortunately. So we have to keep an eye on what he does and what direction he's going to take the country. But it's unfortunately going to be getting worse for him. One of the other things I wanted to ask you guys a little bit too is some of the situations. Let me just give a quick update. I mean, the polls you guys were asking on Twitter about this. We're still obviously way ahead at this point of the no side, if you will. We have a between 57 and 61% likelihood of a no, and we're at 39 to 43% for the yes side. So it's on track. It seems that this is the direction it's going to go. But I wanted to talk a bit about some of the other alternatives in Italy. Actually, we have the Lega Nord, of course, the Five Star Movement, and these other groups, and kind of how they compare to Forza Nuova, both in Italy, but also what you guys are doing in the U.S. Frank, because we were talking the other day a little bit before this live stream, and you were talking about how many of these other parties, they don't really have like they don't have any concept of, let's say, maybe culture and morality, or like any issues that goes beyond the normal political environment. Tell us a bit about that.
If you mentioned Lega North, yeah. Well, if you mentioned Lega North, okay, and Lega North, yeah, they're an anti-immigration party. That's what they are. So they're going to take care of immigration. They're going to stop immigration, and let's say they did. They stop it tomorrow. Well, is that it? Will Italy be beautiful again after that? Or as Trump says, make Italy great again? Will Italy be great again because immigration stopped? Is that the only problem that Italy has? There's many other issues. There's no, Forza Nuova, we have what we call the 8 points, which is things such as we're anti-abortion, we are pro-family, we are, we believe in the culture and the spirit of our people. So we want to bring that all back. That's not addressed by these other parties. They're not just going to miraculously change Italy because they stop immigrants from coming in. Yeah, we don't want immigrants either. We want Italy for Italians. We want our culture preserved. But we also know that there's going to be many other things that we need to do to make Italy great. It's not just putting up or stopping the boats from landing. It's a lot more to it, which is a total cultural renaissance and morality, and bring morals back. So there's a lot of other things that need to be addressed that these parties don't.
Yeah, it's like we got to question the system that got us into this mess to begin with, right? There's something wrong at the very core of things.
Exactly. Well, my thing of what's wrong with Italy, what's wrong with Europe. I mean, it's the Americanization of Italy that's wrong, right?
The globalization.
Let's face it. Yeah.
Frank,
I called it the Americanization, which is after World War II. They looked at America and they want to be like America. They want to be like Americans to a certain extent because they see the economic part of it. They see the opportunities, so they feel that that's the way to do it. And with that, they imported all the other things that came with it, right? They imported all the feminism and like I used to say, they rock and roll, right? Bring over rock and roll, and everything was America. We love America.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah. And that's so that's what tended to happen. Giorgio, you wanted to.
Well, I just wanted to kind of expand on what you're saying, and I think it's important to note that one of the key differences between parties like Forza Nuova or Golden Dawn, one kind of indicator that is unique, and there's other examples in Europe, of course, too, but I'm just going to go with those two, is that these parties, their roots and their ideology and their activism existed even before
Immigration.
Problem.
Immigration, yes.
There's a major difference between a nationalist party and an anti-immigrant party or an anti-Islam party. Now, naturally, of course, nationalist parties are anti-Islam and anti-immigration by default. But when you look at Golden Dawn, for example, it was around since 1980. Now, in 1980, Greece was 98% Greek. You know, it didn't have an immigration problem in 1980.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because they understood that there was a cultural problem, there was an ideological problem, there was a sickness already ingrained in the culture there after the fall of the dictatorship. The same goes for Italy.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing now is the symptoms of a problem that started long before you see all these things with the rapes and the immigrants and things like that. This is not a new phenomenon.
Yeah, I think what Giorgio's saying is exactly what I was saying with just coming in and blocking immigration. It doesn't mean that Italy is going to be great again. It's not solving the underlying problems that exist and have existed for 70 years. You know, they started 70 years, and now what you're seeing is the fruition of the problems. That's what you're seeing today. It's the fruit has come up and is ripening. But the planting was done 70 years ago in Italy, and it just it takes a while to take root and to grow. And now you're seeing it with all the things that are happening there. But immigration is not an end-all solution. That's not the only problem. It's,
right.
as Gio said, there's cultural and other things.
Yeah, they'd be the perfect example of a civic nationalist party.
Yeah.
Kind of like UKIP, I guess. We're an ethnic nationalist party for Italians. They're civic nationalists.
Yeah, yeah. So what's the level of Forza Nova in Italy right now? Are they anywhere like close to in the polls to getting into? I don't know if they get into the parliament or how the system works there, but are they any force to be reckoned with?
Bored. Well, they were bored. They were banned from the last election because they said that they didn't get their signatures in on time to be able to be on the ballot. So that's how they got them out last time. So we'll have to see in the next elections how well we do. Honestly, do I expect us to be at 20% or anything like that? No, we want to start seeing some growth. We made some good inroads in the last local elections. I think Carlo said that we won many regional and elections, small town council elections, and things like that. And that's off the playbook of Golden Dawn. That's what they had done. They didn't just spring about and become the second largest party from nowhere. They started a grassroots type of system, and I think that's what we went back to in Italy. We saw that, hey, you can't start at the top. We have to build from the bottom, and that's what you're seeing. Where if you go on the websites and whatever, we're opening up a new location practically every week in Italy. Forza Nova is expanding and opening up an office in different towns throughout Italy. So we're growing at the local levels, and that'll lead to success on a national level. So, but we're growing. We're not there yet. We're only 20 years old.
And it means new force, correct?
It
Yes.
Translated, it means new force.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's something that's needed, obviously, because we can talk a bit about what the future is that we're looking at here with a complete just flooding of Lana and I played a couple of videos just yesterday on our live show that we do for members, and we were looking at some more footage of people just flooding into Europe. That's mainly males. There seems to be there's one particular video out of Germany that was quite interesting. It was showing men wearing the same kind of camouflage t-shirts, walking around the streets doing war chants basically, and terrorizing the elderly population in this small town. And it's just like it's amazing when we look at what's happening. It almost looks like there's armies being brought into some European countries, and they're organized on that kind of level. There's very few women, very few children, to be honest. Mostly men.
But it's yet it. You mean it's not families fleeing the war? That's what we.
Nope. Nope. No, but it needs to be reiterated again and again because, as I said before, there's an embargo on this kind of information. If we have newcomers tuning in, if we have people that are curious about all of this, they need to know what's happening. The mainstream media is not showing them these clips. They're not showing them what the reality is. That it's well-placed propaganda pieces where you have one photo of the one woman and child that's spotted among the thousands of men that are coming in.
Yeah, it's most. I forgot what the numbers were, what the percentage was of males, but I can tell you that I think in Italy only 3% of the asylum seekers are actually given asylum. They're not considered refugees. So you have a 97 to 98, turn back percentage on these people. They're not refugees. They're not coming in from war-torn areas of the world. They don't fit in any way. And like you said, they're mostly males between the ages of 18 and let's say 40 or whatever. But it's adult males predominantly that are coming over to our shores. It's unbelievable. It's not. They're not refugees. It's not immigration. It's an invasion. I mean, you have 10,000 a week coming into Italy. If an army of 10,000 came into Italy, attacked Italy, you would call a war, right? You would say, "My God, this is a war.
Yep.
We've been attacked," and yet you're allowing 10,000 to creep into your country every week.
Where are they coming from primarily? Do you know?
It's mostly It's actually more. There's North Africans, but a lot of sub-Saharan Africans are coming over. Nigerians. That's
Eritreans.
Those are the two big areas, I believe. I mean, Somalians. So I mean, they're coming from areas that are have nothing to do with what's happening in Syria or Libya. In fact, I think Syria. I mean, I don't even know what the percentage was of Syrians who actually come over. It's very small, I believe, in Italy. And they come over, and of course, they don't want to stay in Italy, which is bad news for Stefan because they're trying to get to his country. They really are. They don't want to stay in Italy. We don't take care of them too well. Their aim is to get to Germany and Sweden, where they feel they can be taken care of. So they, to give you an example, we have about 170,000 refugees in Italy today. I think in 2014 there was 170. In 2015 it dropped to about 150, and this year we're about 171. So that gives you 340, another 150, but like 500,000 refugees. But yet there's only 170,000 of them in Italy. So where did the other 330 go? They went up to Germany and Sweden, right?
Yeah.
Stefan can tell you that.
And that's also Stefan, why it's important for this cross-European, partnership and cooperation because, and we spoke with Giorgio from the Golden Dawn about that last time when he was on our show. This aspect that the borders the openness of the borders in southern European countries is ultimately what's being detrimental to northern European countries, and we have no say in this. It's amazing. They're just walking through all these other European countries, and because they have failed on their border control, Germany, Sweden, Norway, Britain, and all these northern European countries are taking the blunt end of this. Amazing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was reading the news here a couple of days ago, and now the Swedish government said that we will increase how many people we will take, and next year will be a new record year for Sweden.
They have to build new cities now, Stefan. Do you read that? There's we need to build a couple of new cities, basically, in different parts of Sweden.
Yeah, and not small cities. We need to build a couple of new Stockholms.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, it's insane.
And it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah. What you were saying about to Stefan about how we all need to work together, it's exactly right, because we all need to work together to stop also, let's say, pointing fingers, which is this what the globalists want. Okay. In other words, the immigrants are coming in through, they were coming in through Greece and Italy. Those were the two big places. So now they go through our places, right? Because they want to get to Stefan's place. And you can have like the northern Europeans telling, hey, Italy and Greece, you got to do something about your borders. We don't want them up here. And then the Italians will turn around and say, well, wait a minute. So we're supposed to keep them? You know, they don't want them either.
You're not supposed to let them in.
It's not
That's
just,
the thing.
well, yeah,
Sink
but here's the
boats,
problem.
damn it.
It's not like it's just Italian ships who are going there and getting them off of Libya and bringing them to Italy. It's the whole European Union who is doing this.
That's right.
So it's
Yep.
Norwegian ships, it's Swedish ships, it's German ships, and they all go there and they pick up people 20 miles off of Libya. And where do they bring them? They bring them to Sicily.
Yeah.
They bring them to Calabria. Okay, so as an Italian, I could say, well, don't bring them here. So this is how we all need to work together. We don't want them. Stefan doesn't want them. So we don't go get them. That's very simple.
Right.
They have to learn that we're going to get you. We're going to turn the ship around and bring you back, because we don't want you and Stefan doesn't want you. It shouldn't be a game. Right now they're playing a game where, okay, we bring them to Italy, but we know they're not going to stay here. They're going to leave and go to Germany and Sweden. Well, we shouldn't be doing that either. That's not right for Germany and Sweden. But it's also not right to close the border and let them stay in Italy forever. We don't want them either. So what's the answer? It's very simple. Don't bring them to begin with.
Yeah, I think the finger pointing can get a little counterproductive. We do need to kind of stick together as far as, I mean, because our enemies essentially, they don't really differentiate between, you know, a Frenchman and, you know, a white American and a German. They just see a white guy who has stuff that they like. They see white women, which they want. So for us to be kind of, obviously we want to, you know, retain all of these, you know, different European identities, but it is helpful to kind of have like a pan-European, pan-white identity for us to recognize that we're all essentially in this together.
Exactly.
And especially when it comes to, if people really want to engage in finger wagging and, you know, placing blame somewhere, it should be to the elite who are globalists. They don't, you know, they might be Italian in Italy. They might, you know, they're globalists from all different countries, but essentially their allegiance isn't to the country, isn't to the people. It's to themselves and to the global agenda.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That we shouldn't be, what they're doing is they're using us to point fingers at each other, and nothing is getting done. We should be smart enough to realize they're trying to get over on all of us, and let's all of us stand together and say no. And obviously, where does it start? Well, it starts with not bringing them to Italy to begin with.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
Italians, whoever, any Navy, do not bring them to Italy. Turn them around and bring them home, because we don't want them here, and we certainly don't want them to go through our place and reach Germany, Sweden, etc.
Let's not forget that the Israeli government through Israel has people on the ground in, I believe it's Greece, maybe Italy as well, to help ferry these refugees, these migrants into Europe. So once again, if people are looking to point fingers, Israel is always a good place to point.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, Reinhard, by the way.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
But I think this is actually happening now throughout Europe, that we are not just pointing fingers, that we are actually learning from each other. If we look at when they start building defenses in Hungary, this was actually done by a mayor from Jobbik called, I can't remember his name now, but he's the mayor of a small city called Ashatalom. And he started building defense there long before Orban decided that they needed defense through the whole Hungary. And they had nationalists going to that area before to see how he was organizing this with building defenses, with their own police force that they had, border patrols. We have also seen this now in Bulgaria, where different nationalistic groups have been there and observing, because nationalists there are making militia type of organizations going in the forest and seeking out so-called refugees who are trying to cross into Bulgaria, also supplying the Bulgarians with equipment, security equipment. So what we are seeing now is that more and more Europeans are actually trying to learn from each other and also trying to help each other, especially in the parts where it's very close to the non-European borders.
It's just to clarify something. I wasn't pointing fingers at Stefan. I love Stefan. No, but we're not finger pointing. What I was trying to say was that that's what when I said that that's what the APF is all about, is that we're working together. And we know what the game is. It's not Swedish people versus Italians or Germans versus Greeks. We know what it is, and all of us need to get together, get on the same page, and come up with the system to stop it from happening, not to hurt us and not to hurt anyone else.
No more brotherly wars, as they said. That's absolutely right.
No, absolutely not.
We need a true European Union, right? A true one of nationalists. So is there any progress being made of the various nationalist parties and all these European countries that are getting together and forming some kind of a coalition? Isn't that's what needs to happen?
Well,
next,
that is literally, if you didn't catch that in the beginning, what the Alliance for Peace and Freedom that Stefan is the general secretary of, that's kind of what they are doing. They're like an umbrella organ. Obviously, you can explain this better, Stefan, but this is like kind of at first, I would say, an attempt of unification among various nationalist forces within Europe, correct? Is it first of its kind, I think?
Yeah, I would say, okay, it has been attempts before, but not on a really serious level. I think, as I said in the beginning, the problem has been before that people have been so focused on their own countries that they have forgotten about what's happening in the rest of the world. And now I would say that the most nationalistic parties and movements, they understand now that we need to work together. So I would say that this is the first serious attempt in doing this in Europe in this way. And of course, a great benefit for us now is that we have funds from the European Parliament, which helps us to set up the foundations of this party and organization.
So that went through. That's approved. That that you're going to get funds now.
Yes, throughout all of this year, we have been receiving funds, and on the 15th of December, we will know again if we will have funds for next year. And okay, they have made, of course, attempts in trying to ban us from having these funds, but it's a problem for them because the rules are not so very political. It's very bureaucratic, and it's for the politicians to change it. It's complicated. So I'm optimistic that we will receive the money also for next year.
Very good. I'm glad to
Henrik,
glad to hear that. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add something which you might not be aware of, which is that in Greece right now, the government has announced or been talking about something they call Phase 2. Now, Phase 2 is essentially the plan that they are going to permanently settle these illegal immigrants in Greece. They are not, in other words, there's a plan that they are at some point going to close the borders, either using these fake nationalist groups like the Sweden Democrats or something like this, and they're going to let them collect in Greece eventually. So the plan is not simply to keep doing it to Sweden forever and let them flood in. What they want to do is try to get people to eventually digest these people and accept it. And so this Phase 2 is not a Greek thing. This was something handed down by Belgium. And so there's definitely some more to it than just simply, as they said, the finger pointing of, oh, it's your fault, oh, you're letting them in, and this and that. So
yeah, exactly. Well, guys, let's just run this because it's so funny. Let's take a look at this commercial in terms of like what it is that on the level of propaganda that people in not only Italy, this is happening in all the European countries, but look at this, ladies and gentlemen.
jeans and heels. Belly button showing, got some sex appeal. Streaks in your hair, fingernails did up. Abs looking like do 1,000 sit-ups.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's the level of propaganda we have working with. It's obviously commercial, but
but they're trying.
They're serious about it.
Yeah, that commercial, by the way, was done years ago, and you never heard anything about it.
Yeah,
it only came to light after the Chinese commercial that I think came out a year or so ago.
Yeah,
where it was the opposite. Yeah, so they did the opposite, where they put the black guy in, and he came out as, I don't know, Bruce Lee maybe or something. I'm not
some
sure.
Asian.
But then you started seeing this commercial. So when this commercial came out, and I don't even remember when, but it was a long time ago, 5 years ago, 6, there wasn't a peep. You didn't hear anything about it. Nobody said, "Oh, well, isn't that discrimination?" But then when the Chinese one came out, everybody started, screaming about how it's, racist. So the typical double standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All right, folks. Well, I mean, I think we should start congratulating the no side. That's what's happening here now. So this is good news, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very good news.
Is Renzi supposed to be
Italy.
speaking? I'm looking. He's not coming out.
We're waiting for that. Maybe he'll do a Hillary. Remember?
That's right.
Yeah, I was going to say he probably said he was going to speak, but now he's probably has to regroup and figure out what he's really going to be doing or speaking about. So who knows? It's about what? It's only 12:15 in Italy. So, I don't think they'll make it official till, like they were saying, 1 a.m.
Yeah, it's looking like we have some celebrations on the street, some areas. What's the overlap here in terms of the left-wing groups that are proponents of the no side as well? Is there a strong kind of unity that both the right wing and the left wing, they don't want to see more EU expansion, they don't want to see more Renzi? Is there any kind of dynamic like that going on, or is this a left and right issue, would you guys say?
Well, you said it. There are many leftists who are against it also, right? I mean, it's actually quite funny that I saw that many leftists are also against it. So I guess they're against it for the taking the votes away from the people part.
Right.
But I think the majority of the people who voted no, it is a reaction to just to expand on what Stefan was saying before, a little bit of the waking up and voting no against Renzi, and just what's been happening in general in Italy. So they are waking up a bit. This was definitely a referendum on Renzi and what he was trying to do. So,
yeah, how long has he been in power there? Is it a couple of years in Italy?
That's just a few years.
Yeah. So there we go. So there is possibly another election then coming up, another change in government again. But I wonder if there is a aspect to that, though, that you mentioned, Frank, that there could be some beneficiality or something beneficial to someone basically trying to reform the system a little bit in such a way that that so many governments can't change so quickly again, because that seems to be the problem.
Absolutely, and I don't know why they haven't. I mean, why would they want the possibility, like I said before, where they form coalitions, it breaks apart, the smaller party gets out of it, and because a small party gets out of it, now a new government has to be formed. I'm surprised that there isn't something there like if a coalition government is formed, that there's not a time period put on it, that, hey, you formed the government, you're now in for X amount of years. I don't know. I don't know what the answer would be, but it's something better than what they have. I'm sure they can come up with a better system than what they have, where there's a government every 1.5 years.
Yeah, it seems a bit difficult doing it that way. But yeah, we'll see. This is very interesting. We'll see what comes out of this. This is very, encouraging, just for the momentum's sake of things, that we can actually get this populist movements, a anti globalist, a Eurosceptic momentum going in Europe, around the Western world. I mean, there's other things, of course, happening in France next. There is other elections coming up. I think that, as you said, Stefan, this is going to move in the right direction. This is definitely going to cause a stir, and then we'll have to see what comes out of the Italy situation here. If there is eventually then a referendum on the euro, and then hopefully a referendum on the European Union membership itself, and that could basically be one of the final nails in the coffin of the European Union. Very encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of referendums against the European Union, our partner in Slovakia, the Kotlebas Party, People's Party of our Slovakia, they are now trying to get enough signatures to have a referendum on both leaving the European Union and leaving the NATO cooperation.
Oh, nice.
So but okay, I think it's quite hard. I think they needed more than 10% of the people that are registered for voting to sign their participation to do it. So it's quite difficult. But if they manage it, it will be really great.
Yeah, I was just looking that up as he was talking about that. 15.6 million in Czechoslovakia. I mean, I guess it's a Czech Republic, right? But that would mean...
No, it's Slovakia.
Slovakia. That's, of course. Let me look at that quickly.
Yeah, so it's quite smaller.
That's right, 5.4 million. So that's in 2013. But that would be, so maybe like 500 and a little bit over 500,000, maybe under 500,000 for the voting age, I guess.
I would say around 300,000, but
300,000.
In a small country like this, it's still quite a lot of people who need to sign the list before they can have their referendum. But I know that they are working on this, and I know that it's not as in many other countries a deadline on how long a signature is valid. So I think they can continue to do this work for quite a long time.
Yeah, they got mustered up over time. I don't really know how have you talked with the representatives then that's part of the APF from Slovakia, or is the situation pretty bad there with immigration?
No, they are like the most countries in the East. They are not affected in this way. And even the Prime Minister of Slovakia, that is Social Democrats, say they don't want any Muslims in Slovakia. So from that perspective, they are in a much better situation than the West Europe. So
they got their head screwed on right.
But the EU is trying to force them all to take migrants, of course. They're trying to penalize them, say you guys have to take your fair share.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the EU don't have any leverage on these countries. So I think, Hungary, Slovakia, Czechoslovakia, Poland, they will just say, screw you. I don't think you have anything to leverage against them. So I think, EU will not succeed in making this.
Yeah, I know that in Sweden, Stefan, we had the threat of sanctions against the municipalities that didn't want to take in their, quote, fair share of immigrants. And we've had the same, of course, on a larger scale within the European Union, that they have been penalizing different countries. I don't know if it's fines, or I don't know what they can do against some of these countries, to be honest. But same thing in the Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. These countries are very small population, and the EU is trying to force them to take in a quota of migrants, basically. But I don't know what they can do against them, if it's fines or if it's money ultimately at the end of the day. Do you know, Stefan?
What they want to do is have some kind of fine, but it has not been voted on within the parliament yet. So, and I don't think it will. They will not succeed. Now there are so many parties within the European Union, populistic parties, also nationalistic parties, and parties to the right that don't agree with these policies. So I have difficult to see that they will actually vote it through. So I think, the countries there, they are safe from this. It will only be empty threats.
Yeah, indeed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's actually take a look at I think this is a good time to do it. We can take, if you gentlemen want to take a short little break, if you want to get some water or something, we can do that. We're going to take a look at the Alliance for Peace and Freedom, their conference. They did a little bit of a mini documentary and I thought we could run that. It's about 12 minutes long, so we'll play that as a little bit of a break or a pause, if you will. Do what you need to do in the meantime, and then we'll return after that, folks. So do enjoy this little update, if you will, from the Rome conference that they held recently from the APF perspective. So we'll take a look at that. We'll be right back.
United against immigration and terrorism was the theme of the latest international conference held by the Alliance for Peace and Freedom. On November the 12th, about 400 participants attended this excellent event in the Italian capital, Rome. The theme called attention to these related and persistent problems which clearly concern all European states. So it was no surprise that guests came from many countries all over the continent. One participant put the basic necessity of European networking to the point.
Well, I think it's a very nice initiative and very important regarding the aspects of the future of our European homelands. And I think it's a very nice to see all these European people coming together. Me, myself, coming from Sweden and meeting nationalists from all over Europe. Very rewarding to meet people, discuss. We talk about the core issues about our future. It's very, very important and a very nice arrangement. So I hope to come to see more of this kind of arrangements.
APF is a Europe-wide coalition of political parties that exists to provide a voice and an ideological pole of attraction for nationalist activists. APF President Roberto Fiore summarized the mission of the APF as follows.
I would say that the main element for the Alliance for Peace and Freedom is that it can act strategically. It can have the map of Europe, and according to the necessity and according to the possibility, it can intervene anywhere. And this is something totally new in patriotic politics. We have the luck to have discovered an instrument, which is the European political party, that enables us to act quickly, fast, in a situation where we think it's possible to act. And in that sense, I think we are the only one who have understood the possibility and the potential of this structure.
The General Secretary of the APF is Stefan Jakobsson from Sweden. By speaking about the responsibilities of his office, he is able to give an interesting insight to the inner life of the organization.
So this year we opened a headquarters in the heart of Brussels for the Alliance for Peace and Freedom. And I think this has been a very important step for us to have a base to work from. To organize meetings and events, to have a place where we can discuss important topics and to meet with everybody. So this has been a very important step this year to have this room or this office. And this has provided us with possibilities that we didn't have before. And now, throughout the year, we've been organizing these conferences throughout Europe. Mostly with topics about the current events in the world, especially about the situation in Syria that has been very current this year. And I think this has put us in the map as a big global player in politics. And it has also been very important for us because we are still a very young party, and we need to get the word out that we exist and what we do, and the conferences has been a great opportunity because of this, and we have recruited a lot of members because of it, because not only parties can be a member of Alliance for Peace and Freedom, also individuals are welcomed as member, and we are always searching for new people that want to come and work with us, that share our vision of a Europe of free nations, and with individuals with different talents, we think that we can accomplish something truly great here.
Also a member of the APF is German member of the European Parliament, Udo Vogt, who explains some very practical reasons for cooperation between European nationalists.
Nun, seit 2014 bin ich Mitglied des Europaparlamentes, und hier lernt man eine Menge Abgeordnete, nationale Abgeordnete kennen, die nicht in Fraktionen organisiert sind. Und Wie ja seit meinem Buch bekannt ist und seit meiner Tätigkeit als Parteivorsitzender habe ich mich immer für Projekte eingesetzt, nationale Kräfte zu bündeln und zu sammeln. Und das habe ich natürlich auch im Europaparlament getan. Im Jahre 2015 begann der Generalangriff auf Europa. Und dieser Generalangriff auf Europa bedeutete, Millionen von Fremden auf diesen Kontinent zu bringen, damit sich hier eine One-World-Gesellschaft, eine multikulturelle Gesellschaft entwickelt. Und ich setze darauf, dass einzelne Völker das nicht mehr abwehren können. Denn was wir jetzt brauchen, das ist die Gemeinschaft, das sind die Völker Europas, die zusammenstehen müssen. Wir können heute nicht mehr die Schlachten von gestern schlagen. Wir brauchen heute nicht mehr darüber zu debattieren, was vor dem Ersten oder Zweiten Weltkrieg welche Grenzen gewesen sind. Wenn wir in den nächsten 10 bis 15 Jahren den Masseneinsturm nicht bewältigen, dann werden unsere Völker verlieren. Fremde Völker werden diesen Kontinent besiegen und beherrschen. Und aus diesem Grund war es mir ein persönliches Anliegen und ich habe viele Mitstreiter gefunden, die hier mit daran gearbeitet haben, die Alliance for Peace and Freedom zu gründen und mit Bewegung, mit Leben zu erfüllen.
Through a multitude of activities, the APF has staked its claim to be the counterpole to the immigration and free trade policies of the liberal elite. The APF has from the very beginning stood firm for better relations with Russia. While this is now going mainstream thanks to the election of Donald Trump and the advance of anti-NATO parties in Central and Eastern Europe, the APF was working on this way back in March 2015, when we attended an important conference in St. Petersburg. Furthermore, the APF strives to correct the manipulative and dishonest mainstream European view of Syria. During a number of high-level visits to Syria, APF representatives have been able to see for themselves the reality of the situation there. APF Vice Chairman Nick Griffin from Great Britain is an experienced nationalist leader, well equipped to help plan APF activities.
Well, of course, from a technical point of view, simply for the alliance to be recognised by the European Parliament, although they didn't want to, is a very important step. But the things which excite me and I think really show what we're trying to do, there's three very important things. First of all, the fact that we've already been able to bring together so many really genuine, sincere, principled radical nationalists from all over Europe, so that when a new party or relatively new party such as our Slovak comrades are looking for partners on a European level, we're their natural choice. And to achieve that in just 1.5 years is something I think is very, very important. And then I would say that our involvement in Russia is very, very important. Perhaps after the Trump victory, perhaps less important than it was. But when the whole of the American establishment was really working very hard to push Europe into war with Russia, then just to have any human and political connection with people in Russia. So we're saying we can talk, we may have differences we don't even know perhaps, but there's no reason for hostility and fighting and suspicion. So that was very, very important. Whether it'll be so important in the future, we've really no idea of finding out, because Trump's victory potentially has turned the world upside down, or it may in the end turn out to be a damp squib. We'll find out in due course. And then the other very important thing the Alliance has done, I think, is to establish this very firm connection in Syria with people like Lahoud, with the Syrian Social National Party, with the Ba'ath Party there as well. Very, very important. Syria genuinely has been the point at which the New World Order, up until it met Syria, it had succeeded in everything they tried to do. We did more in the first 6 months unfunded than basically all the other parties funded by the European Union have done in all their time. So whatever happens, we will carry on. So concretely, I think that there's a number of projects have sort of come and gone. They're almost there to create some kind of common media hub. Our Slovakian friend mentioned it briefly in his speech. Some kind of really effective common media hub between us all, I think, would be very, very valuable. And I would like to see us get, perhaps also involving our foundation, Europa Terra Nostra, get really heavily into educating young nationalists in a combination of the ideas of radical nationalism, along with really modern techniques to recruit and put these ideas into practice. And I think that investing in the next generation really is the most exciting thing and important thing that we've got to do.
Also at the Rome conference was the very successful People's Party Our Slovakia. Its leader, member of the National Assembly Marian Kotiepa, confirmed the party's official affiliation to the APF. The party's vice chairman, member of the parliament Martin Beluski, gave an interesting survey of the workings and progress of his party.
I would like to mention the most important parts of our political program. Firstly, we want to leave the European Union. Slovak influence in the European Union is insignificant. Slovak deputies in the European Parliament represents only 1.7%. It means that we cannot change anything, but we must accept everything that the others decide. The dictate from Brussels is destroying Slovakia. We are like a colony without own industry, without own justice. The love of European Union is superior to the love of Slovakia. We also want to reintroduce our own currency, Slovak crown instead of euro. Formerly, we have had our Slovak crown.
Through all the speeches, it became clear that nationalists in Europe are standing together in the front line, possess powerful and attractive visions for the future, and are preparing to take on responsibility for their peoples and the continent. In addressing the questions immigration and terrorism, the conference did not lose sight of the international geopolitical situation, which was very ably emphasized by the Syrian speaker Lahoud Lado.
The heroic winning of Syria against the whole world fighting there, on all levels, military, information, sanctions, diplomatic, and also resistance of own population. This is coming for something. It's coming from the nationalism that we have there in Syria and the love of the country they have in there and the resistance that we have seen so far. How they were giving this doctrine of being independent, free and master of your own decision. This is where and how we have been given the doctrine in Syria.
The APF conference in Rome sent a signal to Europe and the whole world. We are part of a change of a rising new force. After Brexit and the trend-setting election of Donald Trump in the USA, real political change in Europe is overdue and on its way.
Because of your donation and Red Ice membership, we're able to produce live streams such as this one. Help support independent, pro-European media. We're fighting for a prosperous future for European people across the globe. Please go to paypal.me/redice and make a contribution. We appreciate all your support.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, there we are. We're just taking a short break, and in the break, we just saw, of course, that Renzi was doing his speech. It was in Italian anyway, so I guess it would have been difficult, but he just stepped down, basically.
Yeah,
and, oh my God, the euro's crashing, right?
Concedes defeat. He just quit. Yeah, exactly. Now they're saying the euro is sliding and embracing for turmoil. It's so artificial.
God. Yeah, I know, I know. But anyway, it's good news. We'll see if we can play a little bit from that, a little bit clip in a moment here. But yeah, so he's basically decided to resign, and it's a clear, defeat for his agenda. So good news, boys. Congratulations.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you. Beautiful.
All right. Oh, that's good. It's very, very good indeed. So let's see what we can see and decode more from this as things come in. But I mean, is there any risk, guys, that any of this? I think they could be as usual as we saw in Britain and America too. There was actually an upswing of the economy shortly after the news was declared. For the sovereignty side, for the nationalist side, if you will. I think something similar could happen in Italy too. We'll just have to see. Any hunch, guys?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I think we will see upside, or not a change at all in the long run.
So is Beppe Grillo going to be the next prime minister of Italy?
Well, we'll see. Elections then is probably likely. I don't know if anyone knows more about that and what the process of that would be and how long that would take and everything else. But I guess, since one of the issues that we've been talking about now is this aspect that there's very many governments in a short period of time, I would assume that a re-election would not be too far out, if I'm understood that correctly. Frank, do you have any details on that?
Yeah, well, I think Grillo's calling for a new election as soon as possible. So let's see if they listen to him. I think otherwise they can, they can form a government. It doesn't mean that the party's out of power. It just means, they're going to try to reform a government. It'll probably be like a technocratic type of government for now, just like a caretaker government. They can do that also. For the remaining term. So we'll have to see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But Grillo is calling for it. So.
Yeah, I expect so. That would probably be the most likely. Let me see if I can find something here on Renzi resigning a bit more here. Do you speak fluent Italian, Frank?
I speak a dialect of Italian, unfortunately, and it's not the dialect that's in control right now.
Do you understand Italian well?
Yeah. I mean, I speak Calabrese, which is from a obviously from Calabria. But I mean, I can get by. We do speak to each other. When they go rapid fire, sometimes it'll, I'll be like, what was that? But otherwise, I can catch something.
You grew up, you said, speaking a lot of Italian.
Yeah,
right?
I spoke Italian before. I spoke our dialect before I spoke English. My parents had just come from Italy, and then I was born a year later. So I was raised my grandparents were there, my uncles were there. I was raised in this home with everyone speaking Italian, and even the neighborhood was all our let's say paisans from the same town of Italy in our neighborhood where I lived in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah, that's great. Italians seem to stick together even in America, which is nice.
Well, they did at one time, they went obviously wherever they had a relative or a friend, so they all went and congregated in this one area. So wherever I went with my parents, they were speaking Italian. So I didn't hear any English except for TV as a little boy growing up. And it wasn't until school that I actually started speaking English. But a funny thing of what has happened is that the Italians who came here before, or whether they were from Naples or Sicily or Calabria, was predominantly the South. And with them, they brought their regional languages. And a lot has changed now, let's say in the last 30 years, where the northern, what they speak up north, which was like the Venetian Italian or Tuscan Italian, that's what's taught in schools. That's what they speak on TV. So these generations now have grown up knowing that language, knowing how, the proper, let's say, Italian. So the immigrants that are in other countries are actually speaking these dialects that are not really that popular anymore in Italy. So it's almost like it would be, I guess, like the Amish in America, speaking Dutch German. They brought that over with them. And now it's only them who speak it, really. It's sort of like that.
Yeah, it's like they've left, and then due to the fact that they've left, they've preserved some things which the host country has reformed and walked away from.
Exactly.
Well, if Italy is so worried, the government's so worried about, well, who's going to pay the pensions? Well, why don't they just say all the Italians in America, come back home? That's all they have to say, right? I just think of like all the Germans and the Swedes in America. There's millions.
Well, you know what? I mean, you're actually, for the first time, I'm actually hearing definitely nationalist Italian Americans that I meet speaking like that, where they would like to go home to Italy because of the problems that are occurring here in the United States. They don't see America being what it was anymore, and now they're looking for their host country again. They're looking for their homeland and saying, you know, I don't like what's happening here. Maybe we were wrong to ever come here in the first place.
Yep.
And, you know, I mean, when you really think about it, like my parents, for example, my parents did have a better life coming here than they would have had if they stayed in Italy. They came here in 1959. Times were good here in the 1960s and when they came, they were able to prosper. But you look today and things aren't like that anymore here. And you almost say, you know, geez, I wish I was back home with my own people, my own culture. So it's maybe you'll have that one day. You do meet many people. Giorgio is one of them. He's a Greek who probably feels that way. Doesn't want to.
I mean, I lived back there for 7 years, and the only reason I came back was due to economic reasons. But as far as the lifestyle goes, I would much prefer to live back in Greece. One thing I wanted to mention to you, Lana, is that in Greece anyway, and I assume probably in Italy, they're actually making it as hard as possible for Greeks to come back to Greece with bureaucracy and things like that.
Amazing.
They actually are, like I knew one guy, he was born in Greece, but he went to the States when he was a small child. It took him 6 years to get his Greek nationality.
Jeez.
Meanwhile, they're giving nationality to people who aren't even Greek.
Yeah, they're handing it out like lollipops.
At the same time.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Not exactly yet. It hasn't gotten that bad yet. But the attitude, the point I'm making is that it makes a lot of, even from a pure like capitalist economic sense, it makes sense to repatriate these wealthy Greek Americans or wealthy Italian Americans and invest back in the host country. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of experience and education and all this, and yet they're not doing it. So that tells you something.
That's right.
A conspiracy to dilute the native population. It's not simply, as some conservatives think, just bumbling idiots who don't know what they're doing running the country, and they just can't do it because of bureaucratic red tape. No, this is intentional.
Yeah, and it's totally different with Putin. Putin's
Yeah.
extended. He said, you know, if you're Russians and you fled because of the Bolsheviks and the communists, come back home, he says, which is great.
I'll give you a better example. Is I went for dual citizenship 6 months ago. My parents being from Italy, my mother's still an Italian citizen. So I'm still, to the Italian government, I'm considered an Italian citizen because of the line of blood. And it's just it's a formality for me to be an Italian citizen. It's just me showing paperwork. Here I am. Here's my parents' marriage certificate. Here's their birth certificate. Here's my birth certificate. I'm Italian. Okay. I called 6 months ago and I got an appointment for October. The problem is it's October 2018. It was 2.5 years just for me to go to the consulate and give them these papers. 2.5 years.
God. But what happens? What happens if you marry a woman in Italy? Would it be faster that way, or a Greek lady, for instance?
I don't know. I don't know what the ramifications are like that, or what the choice would be if it's any faster. But I mean, you're not talking about applying for citizenship. I'm talking about I am a citizen to them. It's just a matter of showing them the papers that I'm a citizen, and I have to wait 2.5 years to do this. It's obviously done because they don't want it done. They don't really want you to be an Italian citizen. They don't want to repatriate you back. They don't want you going there. That's not the type of people that they, have plans for.
It took me 6 years to get my papers.
About 75% of the Greek Americans that try to apply to reacquire the Greek nationality, they give up.
Jeez.
Really? That
they
bad,
give
huh?
up.
Amazing.
For example, and what they do is now on the books, it's just like Italy. It's by descent. So legally, I'm considered Greek by the Greek army because the Greek army considers only people of Greek blood are Greek. So in other words, when I lived in Greece, I wasn't allowed to get a work permit. So I had to work off the books while I was living there because they considered me Greek. So they wouldn't. And they said, "Oh, you have to go to the army." However, my last name was shortened in the States, and because of that technicality, they told me I had to go to court in my family's village and get witnesses, my cousins, to go to court. They said the court case would take 3 years.
God.
And once I got that, then I could apply, which could have taken longer. So anybody who has any slight discrepancy or any type of thing that would be, let's say, like your parents got divorced in the United States, like your parents were both Greek, but they got divorced in the States. Well, the Greek government wants a acknowledgement of that divorce, so that's a huge problem. If there was a name change, if your name was Papa Dimitriou and it became Papas, that's a big problem too. And that means you're probably not going to get it. So unless both of your parents are both registered in Greece and have kept up their papers and registration with the municipality, the likelihood of you getting granted the very slim, and that's deliberate. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it has, and just to throw in one extra thing was that this is actually the second time that I applied. We're listening to Renzi.
Yeah, is that, I was just pulling up the volume a little bit. The audio is a bit bad here, but see if you can understand any of that, Frank.
It seems like it's not coming through.
Abbiamo ottenuto milioni di voti, ma questi milioni di voti sono impressionanti e non sufficienti. Volevamo vincere, non partecipare. E allora mi assumo
I'm not catching it well at all.
Yeah, it's kind of
audio.
It's bad audio. That's why. But anyway, we can play that in the background. Anyway, I just wanted to hear what he said. If there's any, I suspect it's going to be the same kind of issues, really, and the same things that we've been talking about. Whether the fact that he's stepping down because he conceded because his ideas of reformation hasn't gone through. It didn't work. And hence he's stepping down, and we'll have to see what happens next here, basically.
We have someone new joining us, Alex, another Italian American. Have you been watching tonight? What are your thoughts?
I've only been catching the last few minutes since I got back. I've been paying attention to the polls. It seems like they've done very well in our favor, and Renzi will be stepping out.
It's awesome. Yeah, exactly. Good job. Are you in contact with any of your? Do you have any relatives at all, Alex?
Slightly. We've been paying attention, and as far as you can tell, it's the same BS that we have going on over here, where they try to convince or trick everybody with financial collapse and all kinds of other trickery. But they're not falling for it this time.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's really, really good. Yeah, so we're happy about that. One of the things, too, I want to just return to quickly was what we saw in the video with Stefan that was featured in there as well, and the aspect that the Alliance for Peace and Freedom is actually reaching out to Russia. They're reaching out to Syria to better their relations and all those kinds of things. That's something which is very contrary to what most of the other parties are doing in the European Union, Stefan, which I think is going to, I think that's going to pay off at the end of the day, if you will. There's something that's going to show that you guys are more willing to cooperate on a level of peace than some of these mainstream parties. What would you say about that outreach to Russia and Syria? Have you guys been demonized as a European party just because you've done this?
Yeah, absolutely. Last year we had some Russians who were going to visit us in the European Parliament. There were some professors and some politicians, and just on the base that they were Russians, Martin Schulz, the president of the European Union, banned them from even entering into the parliament building, just on the basis that they were Russians.
It's amazing.
And of course, it's the same with our contacts in Syria. They have been saying that we are supporting terrorism and things like this, and a cruel regime over there. And I think actually we were one of the few political parties in Europe who actually been to Syria and look at the situation there. And I find this extraordinary that Syria is more or less the main point where things are happening in the world right now. You say that the immigration crisis is because of Syria. you have ISIS and all the terrorists. Everything points that Syria is the place to be or the place to examine. But no one from Europe goes there. No one's go and see for themselves what's it like. I feel this is extraordinary. Also, just a remark, you said that we are actually ones who are talking about peace. I think this is something that we nationalists must learn, that we need to retake the words from the leftists, because the leftists have taken a lot of and made them their own. But it's actually the nationalists who stands for peace. We are the ones who stands for freedom. But all these kind of words are now, when you think of it, you're thinking of leftists.
That's right.
Something that we need to change. And this was also why one of the things why we chose the name Alliance for Peace and Freedom. I think it's a it's a controversial name in nationalistic politics. You don't hear it. It's more like a hippie name or something like this. But
well, you
yeah,
mean,
but it's true.
The reason there too, of course, is that the angle that the official the internationalists, the globalists have is basically, and I've heard this from several, both European leaders, but also UN leaders and things like that, that, you know, we've tried nationalism, it doesn't work. They're thinking of a nationalism like, you know, pre-World War II, basically, where the imperative seems that they seem to think is that we have to, if we retain back to our nationhood again, we're just going to start warring and killing each other again and bomb each other to smithereens, you know. But this is, it's obviously, that's not the level of nationalism we're talking about. It's a cooperative nationalism, a one that's based on the fact that when you respect territories and borders and you stop forcing people together, you are going to achieve a peace which we are not achieving at this point.
Preventing war.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't have the same problems today that we had 90 years ago. We don't have a problem that our population do not fit in our country, that we need to expand. You know, we don't need Lebensraum, to use a German expression. What we need today is Leben. You know, we need our people to live. We are dying as a people. The demographics are against us, both from an immigration point of view, but also from the birth rate point of view. So what we need today is not have bigger borders. We need to start living again.
Well said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Building on what you're saying with the wording, it's very similar doublespeak in the referendum, where they're calling for efficiency.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a joke, you know. Efficiency and less money is going to be wasted, and it's just taking more of your power out of your pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier, Alex, you know, about the fact that there was a justification, of course, for this problem, the fact that Italy has had 70 governments in the last 65 years. So there was maybe a reasoning for a desire to reform aspects of the government system, but they're using that. They're simply using that to make things worse, you know, and it's the slippery slope that we see in so many countries, that they're using these words and it's maybe sounds good, but ultimately these are people who are enemies of the people that are trying to enforce these things.
It's almost reminiscent of the, well, if you want to call it a referendum, but the call for, what are we doing here? To abolish the Electoral College here.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
There's checks and balances and systems in place on purpose for that reason, to give, you know, basically a stop to their friends and their cronies from taking advantage and running the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was also Republicans too who wanted to do away with the Electoral College because they really felt it's against them. And in this case, it helped them, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it just goes to show you that the founding fathers, I guess, were smarter than all of us even today as to why we should have it. There is a need for it, right?
Italy as well.
And Italy as well. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what we were talking about before you came on, which is I don't doubt that they need reform in some way. There needs to be something else in place so that there isn't this turnover of governments every year and a half. But this wasn't the right solution. And the people thankfully saw through that.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it. I guess they're doing an interview with, is that the Lega Nord guy on the screen there now, right?
Yeah.
So he could be a step in the right direction, a first step in a direction of actually becoming more immigrant critical. One of the questions that people have posed is this issue of, is there a danger of complacency that basically, let's assume that a Lega Nord would come in that would stop immigration, but then it was basically kind of just settled back to a level of, okay, we've got things under control now, it's fine, let's not worry about it, but the demographic situation is still bad enough. I guess what I'm reaching for, what I'm getting at is that, would it be almost better to have a more radical government in place for some time longer, so that we can use that to our benefit? That's what I'm saying. More people would wake up from this aspect that, what the intention
keep them
is.
angry.
Yeah, in a way, right? To keep them, exactly, to keep people angry, keep them waking up, keep them realizing that the politicians are enemies of the people.
You know what? We have this argument every day, and I mean, I guess you can discuss it around the clock. What's better?
I think people will see it physically anyway on the ground. There's already quite visibly immigrants that, as you spoke earlier, nobody wants them. They're just arriving out of nowhere. There's already protests between immigrants, even in places like Sardinia. They've had issues there with them, and they want them out. That's pretty simply put.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what Henrik was trying to say, is it better for the system to collapse, or do we put a Salvini in place, with his finger in the dam, trying to, slow it down a bit? I don't know what the right answer is. I think you put them in, it stops immigration, but we spoke about this earlier. It doesn't change all the underlying problems, and that's the issue with these fake nationalists. And Giorgio's not on, but we speak about this a lot. There's a lot of groups out there that are, quasi-nationalists. People take them for being, they'll say, oh, the far right Lega Nord. Well, Lega Nord's not far right.
Yeah, they were what we called conservatives about 10 years ago.
If they were in America, you would call him a conservative.
Right. Yeah.
If he's in America, you would call him a conservative. And what is better? Is it better to have him in to stop this insanity, or is it better for the system to break down so maybe they'll really want to fix it?
Hopefully we'll get both in some sense.
Yeah, well, that's the rational thing would be, well, why don't we take a baby step and then worry about it, and hopefully.
Like here with Trump.
Yeah,
Similar with Trump, people have gotten their will back in some sense, or at least see there's a reason, and their decisions actually have power still. So maybe we can actually
build
see
on
something interesting. Exactly.
Yeah, you can build on it. I mean, that's the thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. The destruction might come anyway, but maybe people will become prepared for it. We'll see how that goes. I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, Trump, people ask me about Trump, and, Trump is one man. So we have to see how far and how much can he do. But he is, I was ecstatic that he won. Hopefully he's going to do good things. But like you said, it might have been the light of the fire was lit at least.
Exactly.
And if he had lost, this country would be finished, because 4 years of Hillary, or 4 years of the current system, the demographics in 4 more years going at this rate, you would never be able to vote in a Trump anymore.
I would have to go back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. So one of the things too I wanted to make sure we squeeze in is with Stefan Jakobsson. Before, I know it's getting late, also Central European time. Stefan, I don't know how much you can be with us. We don't want to drag it out too long for you if you're if you need to get back to business tomorrow morning. But what is there anything you'd like to leave us?
In about 4 hours, I will go up. So.
Oh, there you go. Well, thank you for staying up late. We really appreciate that. But I do want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the Alliance for Peace and Freedom. If there's anything you think that we should know about the organization, either if that's helping it in some way, or really whatever it might be, I want to make sure we spend some time on that so we get that out here today as well.
Yeah. I think a lot of your listeners and viewers don't know really what the Alliance for Peace and Freedom is. So maybe I can just take some short minutes and explain a little bit of how it works. Alliance for Peace and Freedom is what you call a political party on a European level. And this has actually nothing to do with elections to do today. You cannot vote on a European level party. Today there is about 15 different European level parties. And I would say that at least 12 or 13 of them are just using it in order to get money from the European Parliament to go on nice vacations, go on some seminars to Malta on Hilton Hotel and things like this. This is basically, this is basically what the politicians in the European Union are doing with these kind of parties. And like Roberto Fiore spoke in the video we saw before, that we are one of the few who actually see this as an instrument that we actually can use in order to do something good. So what we have done is that we have gathered different nationalistic parties throughout Europe and trying to coordinate with them. We're not trying to compete with the national parties. We try to see how we can help them, how we can coordinate, how we can be of real practical assistance. We have made a lot of different educations for representatives of the different parties, and see how we, in manpower or in a more practical level, can actually do some good. And also, of course, with the money we are receiving from the European Parliament. And even if we are just now, I think, party, we have established ourselves good in Europe, and I would say that the main parties of true nationalism in Europe are now within our alliance. You have, of course, the Golden Dawn. You have NPD from Germany, Forza Nova from Italy. Now we also have our Slovaks comrades from Kateva's party, who just this year got 14 members of the national parliament, and they got, I think, 8% in the national elections. So I would say that more or less all the big, are not populistic, but real nationalistic parties have joined our party. And I think this is the way to go. Like I told before, our opponents are working on a global scale. Each country in Europe have more or less the same problems or the same consequences of the problems we are facing. And we need to see how we actually can work together, and we need to see where we need to put our resources in best use. And here we have a unique possibility with the APF that we haven't had before, I would say, in European politics.
So yeah, funding is up next. You said December 15th. You guys will know if you can basically fund it another year. Obviously, I hope that will be the case. And how do you get more influence then as a political party, but no one can vote on you guys? How does that work?
At this time, you don't get influence directly from the European parties. You get influence from the members of European Parliament that you have. In order to create a European party, you need to have a minimum of one MEP, and of course, the bigger you are, the more influence you can have. But within the parliament, you also have these parliamentary groups. That is okay. In many cases, they are the same as the European parties, but they don't have to be. So influence in the parliament has at today nothing to do with the parties instead. I would say that they have created the function of a European party because the globalists in the future want to see a European Union more like America, as a state, a one state, and not without any individual countries. So I would say in the future, if we're going in the line of the globalist, there you will not be able longer to vote on the national parties. You will only be able to vote on the European level parties. But we are not at that stage today. So I think they have set up this just to be prepared for that stage, if the stage will come. Because now we are seeing that the European Union are more or less maybe not collapsing, but losing the grip over Europe. So influence in the parliament we don't have, and I will say no European party have it, because it's not the function of the parties today.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, it's interesting to see where this is going to develop now after the Italy situation, and hopefully, as we said, this will actually be a domino effect of one kind or another, and it would lead to further referendums basically on the issue of the Eurozone overall, because it's just been a disaster, and I think most Europeans, they realize that now. It's been a horrible experiment. It has close to ruined many of our countries. And so the only solution here is to opt out and just restore, national order and national sovereignty again. And I hope, of course, that the APF will be a part of that and helping to change the attitudes and the direction of where this is going. So good job to you, and also, of course, to Roberto Fiore. That we tried to get Roberto on today, and unfortunately he couldn't do it. I guess he'd been out also working. And so it became a bit late to him, but we'd love to speak with him in the future, Stefan, in some way as well, and we can check in with Roberto himself and see what he thinks of all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. We will arrange it for another time. It's no problem at all.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Again, you're of course welcome to continue joining us, Stefan. But if you do want to sign off, I definitely understand. Get some rest, But thank you for joining us. And is there any website you want to give out for people who want to check it out more?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in our work, please check out our website. That is apfeurope.com. So there you will have all the information about our activities and our party. And yeah, I'm also available on Twitter and Facebook and so just reach out if you have any questions or if you'd like to help in any way. So.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you, Stefan. As I said, thank you for joining us, and you're welcome to stick around. I wanted to go over a little bit and talk about Forza Nova as well, the U.S. chapter, guys, both Frank and Carlo. If you guys want to talk a little bit about that and what you guys are doing. You said, of course, you're opening chapters in many places throughout Italy, but is it similar in America? I know that there's like an Arizona branch. Of course, that's where Carlo is kind of heading up, but are there others throughout America? Frank?
Well, we started about, I'd say 8 months ago. And right now we have a good amount of members who have signed up. America, of course, being the size that it is, we don't have, let's say, 100 members in one area. Right now we have members that are, I'm in New Jersey. We have members in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, down in Florida. I have one in Maine. We have members in Ohio, Texas, believe it or not. So it's good, but we're spread out. And so the next year, though, I mean, like I said, we just started, so it's been a nice year. We have the website up and the Facebook up, and our names are getting out there. But the next year will be to really plan on spreading the word about us, getting, on shows such as this to promote it more, to, show up at festivals, Italian festivals or feasts throughout the country, just really get out there and make support. What we really are is we're obviously not a political party for the United States. Forza Nova will not work in the United States. What we are is we're an affiliate to support them, in any way we can. We're gonna start selling merchandise and books through our chapter here in the United States. And so the two ways, what we're really trying to do is, first of all, get information out about what Forza Nova does in Italy, gain support for them through if we have to have a fundraiser at times to maybe help them or the people of Italy. Like we were going to have a fundraiser for the earthquake, but I was told by them, Frank, we don't need to. The people in Italy have given so much that we don't need to ask anymore. So we didn't do it. But fundraisers also increase the membership. Anything that would help fund and help spread the word in Italy, that's our end, and the goal at the end is to help them in Italy. Again, it's not to obviously spread Forza Nova in the United States. It's to act as a support for the party in Italy. We'd also, I spoke with Stefan in the past, and I've been speaking with Roberto about it, but we're probably going to start helping out with the Alliance as well, maybe get their name out to different groups. I spoke to Giorgio about it from Golden Dawn. So we're both on board with helping Stefan, and we'll speak with him on what he would like us to do going forward to help spread the word for them. There's probably a very good thing to help the Alliance out, because unlike Forza Nova, which people feel, well, I'm not Italian, but they are nationalists, with the Alliance, everybody is a European, right? Everyone is. So we have someone who's Swedish and German and whatever that they may be can feel a connection with the Alliance. So maybe we can push them in that direction to support the Alliance from the United States. And that's what we hope to do here. That's what we hope to accomplish here in the United States, to be support groups for the parties in Europe, which are our homelands.
Yeah.
I don't know if Carlo wants to add anything to.
Yeah, I think you put it perfectly. I don't think you could have explained it any better. It's always a bit tough here in the United States, especially with Italians, because a lot of us have been here for such a long time over the generations. But
what I'm finding about that, though, Carlo, is that I'm actually finding that most of the people who are signing up, because I try to call or get in touch with them as they sign up, most of them, it's funny, and it's not, I expected it. I was hoping not to, but I expected it. There's a lot of apathy with Italian Americans. It's probably the most known ethnic group in America, or one of the most known. It's the most written about, televised about, movies about.
We actually we're the most negative represented people.
Oh,
yeah, there's no stereotypes out of Jewish Hollywood, right?
I wonder who could be creating that.
Who could have done it? I didn't want to go that way without going that way. But still, even our own people, okay? We wave Italian flags. They get Italian flags tattooed on their arms. They buy the merchandise with Italian stuff on their shirts. Kiss me, I'm Italian. And yet you go up to them, well, who's the Prime Minister of Italy? They have no idea. They have such
Mussolini.
a total.
Well,
yeah,
it's just because there's been 65 in the last 70 years.
True. That's
he's in and then he's out again. What the hell?
They have no connection to Italy.
Right.
Even the ones who have come here that are first generation, like myself, have no connection to Italy. They have no desire. If you were to say to them, you ever think of going back to Italy? The majority of them would say, no. What are you talking about?
That's all.
Why would I go back to Italy?
Right.
Exactly. Why? Well, they feel they did well here.
Alex, you go back frequently, don't you? You have family there still.
Hey, well, if Trump gets his way, I'd be happy to go back at some point. But either way, I can say what you're doing is incredible support for the public over there. I don't know if Stefan can maybe pick up on this as well, but a lot of the Italians seem, maybe this is a little overstated, but they seem to love America for some reason and look up or look toward us in some sense of direction, at least. So when they see us act in the way that we do and make some kind of decision, especially creating a group as you have, I think is great influence for them and great encouragement to say, okay, do it, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, what would you say, Stefan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Unfortunately, it's usually consumerist America that they look toward, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
some of them
but
at least
still,
still.
America has a big influence in Europe, whether we like it or not. So and I think it's a great way to people to reconnect to their heritage, to create branches like this for Golden Dawn or for Sanova, for Italians living in United States or Greeks, etc. It's a good way to keep updated in what's happening in your homeland, and also to remember where you're from, your heritage.
I just want to add. I wanted to add something, which is that what I was saying was that I find this apathy, let's say, with the first generation Italians and second generation Italians. But what I meant to say was the members who are joining us are not first generation. There are many third and fourth generation Italians.
Yeah,
and they're joining Forza Nova, and they have this love for this culture that is, 3 generations removed from them.
And it's the same it's the same for Muslims in Europe, for example, too. It's like and I'm talking that in a negative sense now. That's like due to the fact that there's like there is a rise of identity politics. There is an issue of being deracinated, uprooted of sorts.
Starved for culture.
Well, what I'm saying is I understand it. I understand why some people turn back again to their homeland and wondering is this all it is? Just consumer culture and emptiness and malls and that's it.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding from the people that I speak to, who are these third and fourth generation who are joining us. That's exactly the thing that they feel. Hey, Italy has a culture. Europe has a culture. We don't have that here in America. The first generation ones tend to be a little, they're enjoying the fruits of their labor, I guess, here, and they're enjoying the prosperity. So they're not thinking along those lines because they don't have. Maybe because they don't have that disconnect with Italy, being that their parents came from there, they're still in touch with it somehow. But the third and fourth generations are the ones who are joining right now, and I think that's great. I think that's that's nice to see that they have an interest in the homeland after they've been in this country, or their family has been in this country for possibly 100 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe to build upon that, or to break through to some of these people, we can, positively and negatively take advantage of the, like you were saying earlier, the double speaking language
Carlo, maybe you can, Carlo, if you hear us, maybe you can mute.
Mute.
I don't think we can mute him on our end. His call is going through. No, I don't think that does it. That's your mic you're muting there. Anyway, I guess you have to talk over that, gentlemen.
Sorry about that, Alex.
Go ahead, Alex. Continue there.
So, maybe there's a way to get through. Unfortunately, groups like Forza Nuova and, Golden Dawn are continually called fascist organizations. And, these negative words, but there'd be a twofold approach that would be appropriate, I think, for this is to, play on people's emotions to teach them, again, that those things have to do with your roots and your heritage. But on our side, as well as play against the Muslims and the people that we don't want. Play against their own emotions to send them back, to make them want to go back somehow. Because we're doing that. We're good at, for lack of a better word, mental manipulation in some sense to get these people the hell out of here. I know it's possible. They might not be as intelligent in some sense, but I think in imagery and in some way we can take advantage of that. A similar thing, like a campaign, of don't you miss where you're from, but for them,
Yeah, exactly. That's true. We got to reawaken that. We got to make some ads, some of those nice ads that just kind of raise the question mark.
Yeah, but these invaders, they only respond to force. So
you're right, but I think there are those, in the smaller community or the lesser sense that a reverse propaganda campaign of senses. We were talking about this the other day. People were speaking of fundraisers, and I think a good way. Sorry.
Yeah, just talk over that, Alex.
Yeah, trying to
a good
reach
way to.
Who is that?
It's Carlo.
I'm telling him to mute his mic, but he doesn't hear me.
Can't we kick him off? Just kick him off.
Yeah, this is the worst one yet, huh?
We'll click on him there. Can't you do that from your end there, and then you just hang up on there, or does that going to hang up the whole
Yeah,
call?
it hangs up everybody, unfortunately.
Oh my god,
No.
okay, we can't do that. All right.
Live calls.
Yeah, this is live
but
TV, folks.
basically-
This is what it is.
Marburg is just like
Yeah, go ahead,
Perfect.
Alex. Just be strong-willed and talk over that. We'll hear.
No,
we'll hear you.
well, it's just in my ears. But basically, we were saying is, same thing. A plague upon some people's, liberals and, other folks that we don't exactly like, play upon their own emotions to donate to us. We don't have to tell them it's for us. It can be against them in the same way. It's a little too much, a little Jewy in some sense, but that's a way I see it working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is true.
They've done the same thing to us. Yeah. Take a note from the
playbook,
Talmudic playbook.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If these are strategies that work, if these are things that are operational, we should try a bit more. I think one of the reasons, for more. But from the conservative, so-called conservative people to traditional people to people on the right, they have had
look at what Jill Stein did.
yeah, exactly. Well, making shekels on it, but just this idea that
Exactly.
we tend to interfere less and like try to kind of manipulate with other people less to a certain extent, and that needs to be changing too. I think.
Exactly.
Get involved a bit more and try to push people, propagandize ourselves a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds nefarious in some sense, but that we have the light behind us. We want this in the right direction. So it's crazy to say, but it's for their own good. So I think we should take advantage of it.
Yeah, that is correct. That is right. Well, ladies,
Henrik.
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah, go ahead. Giorgio.
I just wanted to say something about what they were just talking about, which about the assimilation of the immigrants in America. I'm not a very religious person, but there's a saying in the Bible which says, "What profit does a man have if he gains the world but he loses his own soul?" And that's kind of like what has happened to a lot of the Italians and Greeks here, is that they've gained a lot of money, they've gained a lot of material things, but at the same time they're completely cut off now from what gave them everything, which is their blood, and that thing is also what leads in this country to things like race mixing and things like that, because when you lose your culture, you don't really value it anymore. You don't understand why, so.
Yeah, definitely. We're just talking a little bit here about how to hang up on Carlo there in the meantime, so we don't have his background interference. All right, well, gentlemen, I mean, let's just kind of see if there's anything else we want to go through to before we start, wrapping up here. As again, for anyone who's joining in late or whatever, we've just been following the Italian referendum. It's going to be no. Renzi is going to resign. It was a pretty clear victory for the no side, thankfully. To summarize that, what we're doing is basically it's going to lead to potential domino effect of Europe and the European Union. There might be a referendum in Italy on the Italian place in the Eurozone. So that's one upside. That's one very, very positive aspect of this. So we need to see, kind of what comes out of the situation, how long there might be until there is a re-election, of course, in Italy. And we'll just have to see who gets in next. But there are a couple of interesting parties in Italy that we can keep an eye on that at least are somewhat populist and might be turning around on the immigration issue. Lega Nord, for example, is one of them. So that is actually one advantage. But yeah, I think we should just go over with the guys once more here. If there's anything we should add, I guess, gentlemen, to this conversation that we've had already for a couple of hours here about the situation, and just hear what you guys would like to close off with, and any words of encouragement, or if there's anything else that you guys think we should leave the viewers with before we wrap up. Frank, let me start with you, since you've been very vocal throughout all of this.
Wow. All right.
You know what? I can't even hear.
Yeah, we need to find a way to hang up on this guy. It's very annoying.
And then call back.
Yeah, we can just make
Okay, let me just do this.
Well then, that was interesting. Wow, that was hurting my ears after a moment. Allora, bevando un caffè, stai al zitti.
Now.
Yeah, I was
talk now.
just so irritated by that. So incredibly.
That was terrible.
All right, let's go back in here again then. We've taken care of that problem. We had to hang up on the Google Hangouts, but there you go. And that's why we send directions to
Major
people.
party foul.
Well, that's why you send directions to people, so they just mute when they don't talk. But again, that's the beauty of live shows, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, let's go.
You didn't send him a link, did you?
No.
No.
Everyone but Carlo in this case.
Let him think it's off, and he can go, I don't know, bake cookies or something.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, let me go back to the point we were on there, gentlemen. We were talking basically about, the positive news of this, the good direction. This is going to turn things around, I believe, in Italy. Awesome stuff. What else should we leave the viewer with, gentlemen, before we wrap things up for this live broadcast?
Well, you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead,
Frank. Well, I would just say to what I'm happy about isn't just the referendum being shut down as far as what the referendum stood for. I mean, I wasn't in favor of it. I think that it could be set up a different way. But what I think it is a victory against the system, against what Renzi's agenda, which is the globalist agenda, stood for, and it was a no, and it was a resounding defeat against them at 60 to 40%. So it's a good showing for us. Another domino fell, and it fell quite easily, and so let's keep the momentum going. So that's the way I look at it. I look at it as another victory against the machine, against globalism.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's obvious that there's going to be a lot more that needs to be done at this point. It's the same thing with Brexit. It isn't, it isn't a complete fix for all of our problems. But 2016 definitely will be remembered as the year that populism, the year of populism essentially. And I think we're just seeing the beginning. Frankly, I think these kind of events, the Trump phenomenon, Brexit, Hofer almost winning in Austria, and obviously the referendum failing to go through here. These are signs that there is kind of a discontent in the kind of the European, white racial consciousness. There's people are starting to sense that something is really wrong. I forget who was talking about it earlier, but it's obvious that most people still aren't fully awake. But the awakening is starting to take place. I think we're going to see this process really accelerate next year, paving the way for some real, nationalist kind of uprisings.
Yeah, I want the lira back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one thing that Pepe Grillo might do. Then he might actually manage to get the euro out. So we'll see if that happens first.
Maybe we will see a uscire, Italian exit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I certainly hope so.
You could promote that on your end.
All right, guys. Well, who else? Who else has some comments here?
I think the important thing now is that we can try to keep the momentum. As we all said, this has been a great year for nationalistic and populistic forces. But now we need to continue this. Now we need to move ahead even further and don't be satisfied with what we have achieved so far or during this year. Now the real work starts. Now we need to really make people understand why these populistic parties are not the end game, not the final result. Now we must see how we can make them go even further in our direction. And I think this is where the real work begins.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. I don't think, I mean, even the heels of Trump, I think most people were like, they had that mentality. They had that like, all right, now the work begins. Not like, oh, we won. Very few was like, oh, we won. That's it. At least on our side of the fence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Among I was just going to say, among the main, the mainstream Trump supporters, they probably think that they've won and it's mostly over at this point. But the alt-right, the intellectual vanguard, kind of the head to Trump's body, so to speak, understands that this is, it buys us a little bit of time, but it's, short of some kind of miracle or miraculous 4 years, 8 years in office. It's just kind of the bare minimum, so to speak.
Yeah. If you looked at it as a boxing match, they've been beating you for the last 3 or 4 rounds. You just hit them with a nice punch, but you didn't knock them out. So you still have a ways to go yet. But it was a nice punch. That's what it was. And that's what
exactly.
2016 has been.
That's all of these, the aforementioned successes, Brexit, Trump, the referendum here.
Absolutely.
Regardless of how we might feel about the specifics, it's very good to keep in mind that the people, our enemies, are not just like the liberal down the street, but the globalists and people that are very nefarious and want to turn our countries into third world slums. Essentially, they pretty much hate all of these populist uprisings. So they might be just the beginning. They might be incomplete. They are definitely it's kind of, if it pisses off our enemies, it's got to be a good thing.
Good.
All right, guys. Yeah, I think we should wrap up there. I think this has been a good night. Good night. Someone said too, by the way, regarding the Austrian situation with Hofer or whatever. There's a good chance that the Freedom Party is going to do well. I think was it 2018 there?
I think it's 2018.
Yeah, 2018. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Of course, we have the issue, of course, these kind of faux nationalist parties and civic nationalists. But again, it's an indicative of the signs of the times and a rising tide of opposition to globalism. And as long as we keep up with the information warfare and strike back and show the media, the establishment, the liars out there that this is what's going to happen, and push firm in that direction, I bet you we're going to have actually make a lot of headway in the next couple of years. So thank you guys, to all of you, for joining us today. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for sitting with us as we were seeing yet another country turn the tide. So before we wrap up, thanks to all of you guys again, and have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
One closing statement.
Sure, go ahead, Alex. Last word to you.
Benito did nothing wrong, Sardo strong, and Constantinople war now. Good night.
All right, guys.
Hail victory.
Hail victory.
Hail victory.
Yeah, that's right.
Good night.
Hail Trump. Yeah.
And hail our people.
Hail our people.
Take care.
Get your Red Ice t-shirt today, made by Lanus Llama, sewn in the USA using 100% organic cotton fabric. Available for both men and women in many sizes. Support what we do and enjoy a soft organic t-shirt made without the harsh chemicals. Go to redice.tv/store. Because of your donation and Red Ice membership, we're able to produce live streams such as this one. Help support independent, pro-European media. We're fighting for a prosperous future for European people across the globe. Please go to paypal.me/redice and make a contribution. We appreciate all your support.
you.